Welcome to the perfect documentary to keep you up at night. Today we will explore some of the most haunted countries in the world, their ghosts, and their stories. Let's see which one is the most terrifying of them all, but before we get started, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and also, please make sure to subscribe. And of course, welcome to the Glimp. In most cultures around the world, the dead are very relevant. From reincarnation in Hinduism to mummification in Old Egypt. You can find a lot of different traditions all over the globe. And of course, Japan is not an exception with that. In this country, death is almost as important as life itself. When a person dies, the soul of this person travels to the land of the dead, also known as the Yama-no-kuni, the Shinto afterlife, or the Anoyo, the pure land of the Buddhists. But before getting there, the soul most of the times faces some serious obstacles, and this road can be quite difficult at times. Some things are too tough to overcome. This is where a spirit gets trapped and turns into a eerie, a Japanese ghost. The word eerie comes from the kanji yu, which means dark, and rei, which means soul. These souls, trapped in some sort of purgatory between life and death, play a great role in the world of storytelling in Japan. According to Shinto tradition, we all have a god within us, similar to what we know as a soul. When we die, this soul frees itself from our body. The soul has to reach the afterlife, but this can be a demanding task. This is why when a loved one dies in Japan, the living relatives must watch over the deceased, to help them and accompany them in their journey by doing rituals. Once they have overcome all these obstacles, they will finally enter the afterlife and will look over and protect their living relatives from misfortune. Sometimes when people die of an unnatural cause, left some issues unresolved, or even when they did not have a well-performed funeral ritual, the spirit gets stuck between life and death, and becomes a eerie. These spirits won't rest until they have solved their mortal and earthly problems. A lot of Japanese horror movies are based on this concept. Most of the times these spirits have a very human-like shape, but they are floating in the air without feet. In addition, they usually have long black hair and wear a kimono, often in white, that was used during their funeral rituals. Sometimes they are deformed as they take on the appearance they had before they passed. There are multiple types of eerie, classified according to their earthly suffering. Onryo. One of these types of eerie is called the onryo. These are vengeful ghosts who died having resentment to a person or obstacle they faced in life. They search for revenge and usually turn against everybody or everything. Also to people who have nothing to do with the problems the onryo faced while still alive. Most of the onryo in Japanese folklore are females that want to revenge their ex-partners for cheating on them. In the original stories it doesn't describe how these onryos looked like, but once these spirits became popular in kabuki, a traditional form of theater originating from the Edo period in Japan, these onryos were usually depicted with long black hair and a white kimono, but also with white and blue indigo makeup. The earliest onryo cult that developed was around Prince Nagaya, who died in 729. And the first record of possession by one of these spirits was found in the Chronicle Shoku Nihon in 797, which states that Fujiwara Hiratsugo's soul harmed Genbwa, a Japanese scholar monk and bureaucrat of the imperial court, for failing to remove him from power. Traditionally in Japan, onryo were thought to be capable of causing death and harm, but they were also capable of natural disasters such as fires, storms, earthquakes and pestilence. Kozodata eerie. Another type of these uriais is the Kozodata urii or Abuma, the spirit of a mother who passed away during childbirth and returned to earth to take care of her child. Like the other urii, these ghosts appear as faint images of their former selves. They are also often seen with their white burial kimono or sometimes the clothes they wore in their lifetime. However, these eerie often appear less horrific, sometimes even slightly loving, when compared to, for instance, the Onryo eerie. They appear to travelers on the road at night, or shopkeepers that are alone doing their duties. They often return to the same place over and over again. These ghosts have only one goal: to see the well-being of their child in the land of the living. They do this by, for instance, buying goods such as candy or toys for their children. Of course, they have no money, so they pay with whatever they can, for instance, dead leaves. They seek out living people and try to lead these people back to the location of their child. Once the child is taken care of, the Kozodata Yurei can finally enter the afterlife and will stop appearing every night. Funayurei. Another one of these Yurei ghosts is the Funayurei. Funayurei are the ghosts of people that died at sea, usually sailors who remain in this world searching for former shipmates with the intention of drowning them into the ocean. Like the other Yurei, they also appear as dead bodies wearing a white funeral kimono. These ghosts are seen at night during full moons or stormy and foggy nights. Usually they appear as a glowing misty entity that forms into a ship with a ghostly crew as it approaches. These ships charge into other boats, causing them to capsize and sometimes sink. The Funayurei carry hishaku, which are buckets on a stick, and use these buckets to fill the ships of the living with water in an attempt to sink them. To protect themselves from these spirits, people carry buckets with holes to give to the ghosts, which then stops them sinking their ship. To avoid these ships, boats should sail through the mist instead of turning around and trying to escape from it. Another method is to throw food overboard as an offering and in the hopes that you will distract them long enough so you can get away. Omibozu. Funayurei sometimes get confused with Omibozu, giant mysterious sea monks. They are usually spotted in the sea, ocean, and bays. The Omibozu appears on calm nights, where there is no sign of anything out of the ordinary. They appear all of a sudden, without any warnings. The waves and the weather instantly turn into a furious condition, and from the tumult rises a huge titanic creature. Its true form is unknown, as it is only ever seen from the shoulders up. They appear to be human-like in shape, with an inky black skin and large round eyes. Some say that these creatures are more like a serpentine, while others make them out to be more ghost-like, like an enormous kind of Funayurei. In the same way as the Funayurei, they will demand a broken bucket or a barrel from the crew. Some people say that the Omibozu are the ghosts of drowned priests, cast into sea by villagers. These priests have transformed into ghosts due to the cruel nature of their death, making them cousins of the similarly dreaded Funayurei. Other people say that Omibozu are sea monsters that live deep in the Seto Inland Sea. Because sightings of these entities are rare and almost always fatal, it is difficult to find out the true nature and origin of this spirit, and thus, will remain a mystery for a long time. Jiba Kuriai. Some ghosts are aware of the situation they reside in, and you can dialogue with them. Sometimes you can even help them solve their problem to help them to the afterlife. But there are also the Jibakurii, ghosts that are tied to a specific place, usually the place where their death occurred, which usually is suicide. These ghosts carry a curse and are the most fearsome of all. They haunt the people around them. They often induce insomnia or sleep paralysis on their victims, and the only way to cure these symptoms is by staying away or leaving the place completely. Sashiki Warashi. Sashiki Warashi are the ghosts of kids. With blushing red faces, the boys wearing child-sized warrior costumes, and the girls wearing patterned kimonos, with hair that is either short and bobbed or long and tied back. It is said that only children and the owners of the house are able to see these spirits. They usually like to prank the residents. Often the first signs that a house may be haunted by these ghosts is by a trail of children's footprints going through ashes or soap powder. Other signs include phantom noises in the house. These noises are usually children's games, paper crinkling, children's voices or Kagura Shinto holy music, a form of music that is dedicated to the Shinto gods. Most people love these spirits as they are believed to bring great fortune and riches to those whose houses they haunt. But when they leave you may have a problem. In one example, a family witnessed a Zashiki Warashi leaving their home, and soon they all died from food poisoning. In another example, a wealthy man's son shot a Zashiki Warashi with a bow and arrow, and soon after that, the family's fortune collapsed. Direct sightings of these spirits are rare, but there actually have been camera recordings of these spirits. We can't know for sure if these videos are real, as nowadays it is easy to manipulate videos, but still, the images are an interesting sight. Gaki. Unlike the other ghosts mentioned earlier, Gaki are ghosts specific to Buddhism. Gaki are ghosts which are constantly suffering and live in pain and torment. They appear human-like, but they have bulging bellies and tiny inefficient mouths. They are said to live in a parallel realm called Gakido, a barren place full of deserts, wasteland and inhospitable terrain. These spirits are eternally hungry and thirsty. They suffer in different ways. The sins they committed in a past life now haunt them for eternity. Some of them can't eat or drink anything at all. Some try to eat the food, but when it enters their mouth it instantly bursts into flames and vanishes. Others are only able to eat unclean things, such as feces, vomit, corpses and so on. Some of them can eat anything they please, however, it doesn't matter how much they eat. They will never be satisfied, and even after hours of eating, they still won't be satisfied. In some Buddhist traditions, a ceremony called sagaki is performed to help ease the suffering of these gakis. Rice and water are placed on special altars, out of sight of statues of the gods or Buddha. The gaki then are called to come and have dinner, while the Buddhists pray to ease some of their suffering. Nowadays, the word gaki is used as a curse word for children. This comes from the idea that some children always want more food and that they are never satisfied with what they get. Shinto spirits. Not all ghosts or spirits are bad, haunting your house or leaving a curse. Actually, there are more good spirits than the bad ones. These spirits are called Shinto spirits. Shinto, also known as the Way of the Gods, is the indigenous faith of the Japanese people and is as old as Japan itself. Besides Buddhism, this is the main religion in Japan. Unlike other religions, Shinto does not have a founder, nor does it have sacred scriptures like the Bible or Quran. Propaganda and preaching also aren't common things to do in Shinto, as it is deeply rooted in the traditions and people themselves. Shinto gods are called kami, sacred spirits which take the form of things and concepts important to life, such as wind, rain, mountains, trees, rivers, and fertility. When humans die, they can become kami. The kami of extraordinary people sometimes are even enshrined at some shrines. The sun goddess Amaterasu is considered Shinto's most important kami. Unlike a lot of monotheistic religions, Shinto doesn't have a right and wrong. Nobody is perfect. It is an optimistic faith, as humans are thought to be fundamentalistic good, and evil is believed to be caused by evil spirits. The purpose of most Shinto rituals is to keep away these evil spirits by purification, prayer and different types of offerings to the kami. Shinto shrines are places of worship, but also serve as the houses for the kami. In these places the dead live together with the living, as usually in these places a Shinto priest is residing. In this religion both male and females can become priests, and also are they allowed to marry and have children. Priests are aided by miko, which are younger women during these rituals. Miko wear a white kimono, must be unmarried, and most of the times are the daughters of priests. Jiko Bukken. Imagine this, you're buying a house, 100 square meters, very close to Tokyo, but with the mountainside near, with a renovated kitchen and a big bathroom, and on top of that you get a nice view. Then they tell you it's only a couple $100s a month. This is reality. There is only one downside to it. The house is haunted. The reason the salesman was so enthusiastic was because he hasn't been able to sell it for a long time. The reason that the kitchen is renovated is because that's where a body was found of a guy who committed suicide. Jiko Bukken, also known as black properties or psychologically harmful properties, are rising in Japan. There is even a website called oshimaland.com where you can find the locations of the stigmatized properties. It is believed that the deceased continue living in their house after their passing. This is especially true when it comes to violent or lonely deaths. The left-behind spirits will purposefully haunt the living. When it comes to superstition, Japan has always had a handful of it. Ghosts and Japan are intimately intertwined. Nowadays it has influenced its way into Hollywood and the rest of the world. You can visit Japan yourself and still see how interwoven the culture is with its reverence towards the supernatural or unexplainable. Ranging from whimsy spirit worlds on film, to eccentric monsters and ghosts. It had, and still has, a huge impact on Japan's art and culture. The art is inherently haunted. No matter what future technology emerges, or how advanced the society gets, these ghosts will always be lurking somewhere, in a dark corner. Superstition is a worldwide phenomenon, as most countries have stories about the supernatural, whether it be facts or fantasy. These stories are part of our cultures and shape a big part of our society, but some countries take these stories further than others. In our last ghost documentary we talked about Japanese ghosts. The ghosts of Japan are quite well known thanks to Hollywood. They have a big impact on the worldwide movie and entertainment industry and about our ideas of horror. But did you know there are some countries that have even more ghost folklore with even scarier and more horrifying backgrounds? One of these countries is Indonesia, one of the most religious countries in the world. Here around 98% of the population is religious, and most of them believe in ghosts. The stories of ghosts, spirits, and the supernatural are all common topics in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia. In this place people don't just claim to see ghosts, but they actually claim to capture them on film or audio recordings as well. Besides the fact that the horror genre is the crown jewel in the Indonesian film industry, there are a lot of reality TV shows about this topic, and the results can be quite scary. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, these stories will probably give you goosebumps and make you think about the spirit world with a different perspective. I don't believe in ghosts until I see one, is one of the main reasons people don't believe in ghosts, but remember, one small sighting or the hearing of one of these entities can completely change your perspective and bring the chills down your spine. Despite the technological era we live in, where we have self-driving cars, drones that are delivering packages and robots that are doing human tasks, some customs in Indonesia are deeply rooted in superstitious beliefs. For example, One of these customs is to not wear green when you visit the Yogyakarta beach. It is actually prohibited. The reason for this is that the Queen of the Southern Sea, also known as Ratu Kidul, is residing at the beach, and her favorite color is green, and if you are to wear green, you will be washed up by the sea, taken to her supernatural kingdom. Another good reason to not wear green here is because water in the southern coast tends to be green, and when drowning, you will be more difficult to find. Indigo kids. A lot of people in Indonesia believe in people who are spiritually gifted. These people are referred to as indigo kids. They say there is another world apart from the world we live in, and there must be people who are expert in that. This ability is seen as a gift from God. These indigo kids are usually very wise and have a set of unique skills, consisting of exorcism, healing and more. Their mission is to raise awareness about the other world, as most people are stuck in the logics of this world. On social media platforms, indigo kids are at the center of attention when it comes to supernatural content. They visit mystical places, read people, predict the future, or communicate with ghosts. These ghosts are some of the weirdest mythical creatures you will encounter. Kuntilanak. Some of them seem slightly similar to some Japanese ghosts, for instance the kuntilanak. A ghost of a mother who died before giving birth, just like the kozadate from Japan. Similarly, she has long black hair and a white dress. But the kuntilanak doesn't have eyes, just two dark black holes, and one in her neck as well. And unlike the kozadate, the kuntilanak is not a loving or caring ghost. She haunts pregnant women, and tries to steal their baby. She lurks in tall trees, old buildings, or by the edge of a river or a lake while crying like a baby. Some people believe just the sight of one of these spirits can drive you insane. When a kuntilanak approaches you, it might first smell like flowers, but soon it will change into the smell of rotting flesh. In one story, a young woman was returning to her college campus late at night, and decided to take a taxi bus. On a darkened street, the bus suddenly stopped. The girl looked out the window and thought another passenger was to get on the bus. Then she checked the front seat, and realized the bus driver was gone. He had run away. Looking outside again, she saw a woman in a long white dress with black hair standing outside the door, staring at her directly. She was trapped inside the bus and unable to escape. The next morning people found her in the bus, laying on the floor with a terrorized face. She was sent to the psychiatric ward but never recovered from her experience. People say that if you carry a sharp object, the kuntilanak won't harm you, as she is afraid of it. She can be killed by driving a nail into the hole in her neck. Sundel Bolong. A similar ghost to the kuntilanak is the Sundel Bolong, literally meaning prostitute hole. Like the kuntilanak, the Sundel Bolong is the soul of a woman who died during pregnancy, but in this case, a pregnancy that wasn't from her spouse. With long black hair and a white dress, she looks like a lot of typical ghosts, but the Sundel Bolong also has a hole in her back. This is the place where the baby came out during birth. Her long black hairs cover up this hole. The victims of her usually consist of men and children, and it is said that if she is to be rejected by a man, she will castrate him. However, children, especially newborns, are taken to replace her lost child. Pocong. In Javanese folklore, they believe that the soul of a dead person will stay on the earth for 40 days after the death. If after these 40 days the ties over the burial clothes, known as a kain coffin, are not released, it is said that the body jumped out of the grave, roaming the earth as an undead to warn people that the soul still needs to be released. These ghosts are known as pokongs. They come in different shapes and forms, depending on the state they were in when they died. They can look zombie or skeleton-like, but they can also look more human-like. Even though some people think they are scary, a lot of them are usually harmless. Most of these pokongs are classified as white pokongs that just ask for prayers to help with their release to the afterlife. Still, in general, unpredictable behavior is common, and it is encouraged not to think of them as a friendly ghost. They are supernatural beings that need to be treated with caution. This is because there are also vengeful pokongs that like to frighten and haunt people. These are mostly the red pokongs, also known as the pokong mera. These are the most horrifying ghosts that usually died in a very bad way, for instance suicide or murder. Pokongs sometimes gather in groups, which can be a few dozen up to thousands of ghosts per colony. However, it is very rare that they harm people in groups, so most of the times they are seen, they are alone. It is said that the red pokongs are the heads of colonies of these ghosts. One of these ghost colonies can be found in a rural part of Yogyakarta, near the river known as Code River, which is said to be inhabited by a massive colony consisting of thousands of pokongs. The leader of this colony is a red pokong, an early 20th century shaman specializing in black magic. During his lifetime his practices greatly disturbed the villagers of his village, even so much that one day they decided to murder him and mutilate his body. His body was wrapped in white cloth, which then turned red because of the blood that was pouring out of the shaman's body. In death, the shaman swore revenge on the villagers that slaughtered him, and thus, his spirit started recruiting thousands of pokongs to take revenge. It is said these pokongs are still haunting Code River to this very day. Andong Pokong. Besides the white and the red pokongs, there is another pokong found in the Sidoarjo Regency. The story of this pokong comes from a young male who was in love with the daughter of a rich debt collector. The parents of the girl didn't approve their marriage due to social differences. However, the young man's mother did approve them as a couple, and they got married anyway. When they got married, one of the workers of the debt collector witnessed the ceremony and rushed home to inform the family of the wedding. The father got angry, gathered a mob, and rushed towards the ceremony. Once he arrived, they were already married, and the married couple was riding a horse cart, also known as a andong. They furiously chased the couple until the cart was hit by a passing truck, killing both the man and his bride. Due to the cruel nature of his death, the young man was unable to find his way to the afterlife, and he began to haunt the Sidoarjo region on his cart. People say that the pokong will knock on your door during midnight, and those who open the door will be affected by an unknown illness which causes you to die within a matter of days. Tuyul. A combination of these stories, a shaman that practices black magic, and an unsuccessful birth, leads to our next entity. When a baby dies during pregnancy or during abortion, sometimes the corpse of the baby will be dug up. Then combined with black magic, it can create a being that looks like a strangely bulge-shaped toddler with a gray skin and large red eyes. This undead baby is called the tuyul, which means mischievous thief. While most of the times the tuyul is contained in a glass jar in a dark place, when it gets used it is usually for financial gains. It is known to bring good luck and fortune to the host, but mishap to those who encounter them. It robs people from their riches by lurking around villages at night, and gives it to the tuyul's owner. It easily gets away with its crimes because of its small size. Owning or using a tuyul is like making a contract with the devil, and when you do own one it must be kept happy like a toddler, for instance by offering toys, candy, or sweets. Besides that, you need to nurse it. This is done by pricking your thumb and allowing it to suck your blood, similar to a vampire. If you don't, it will forcefully suck blood from you or your family's toes while you are sleeping. To keep them away, just like vampires, you can hang garlic over your door. Also, it is advised to keep your money on top of some needles or on a mirror. The tuyul is scared of needles and is also scared of their own reflection. A lot of times it is believed that people with wealth and success, for instance government officials, have used a tuyul to get it. Nowadays the tuyul remains widely used in Indonesian society, for instance through mediums, but also in games, literature, and television. To get rid of a tuyul is very easy. You can bury it and lay it to rest, or you can throw it in the sea. Jenglot. Similar to the tuyul, a jenglot is a small creature that some people like to keep around. A formerly human being that is enchanted with black magic. It is said to protect its master or take revenge on the owner's enemies. It is even smaller than a tuyul as it is only about 12 centimeters. They have long hair and long nails and also need to be nursed with blood from a human or an animal. Although they don't drink it, you just have to place it in a glass beside them and they will get the nutrients from it in a mystical way. The Indonesian Red Cross sells blood for this purpose too. Over the years a lot of the jenglots have been showcased in private collections of supernatural researchers or fans. But as you might imagine, a lot of these jenglots were hoaxes to gain some money. Still, many natives believe the jenglot is a real creature. Wewe Gombel. Besides supernatural children that haunt the night, there are also ghosts that kidnap children. A female ghost with long hanging breasts. The name of this ghost comes from an event that happened in Bukit Gombel, where long ago a married couple lived. After being married for years, the husband realized his wife stopped loving him, and as a result, he started neglecting her, leaving her alone for long periods of time so that she would live in sorrow. One day, she tried to find out what was going on and followed him. She caught him in a relationship with another woman. She felt so betrayed and got so angry that she killed him. Because of her crime, angry neighbors started harassing her and then proceeded to chase her out of her village. She eventually committed suicide. After she passed, her spirit became the ghost she is today. Wewe Gombel. She dwells in the crown of the Arenga Panada palm, where she has a nest and where she keeps the children she catches. She doesn't harm the children, and once they are with her, the kids aren't afraid of her neither. These children usually have been mistreated or neglected by their parents, and to them, Wewe Gombel is like a loving grandmother. Suster Najesit. One of the most vengeful ghosts in Indonesian folklore is the Suster Najesit, which literally translates to the nurse that is dragging herself forward. As the name already suggests, this is the ghost of a nurse. A nurse that died in a hospital and now is haunting the halls of hospitals and clinics throughout the country. With long unkempt hair and nurse clothing, she drags herself over the floor, leaving a trail of blood. There is still a debate about her cause of death. Some say she was murdered by a patient, while others say she committed suicide after having been falsely accused for a crime she didn't commit. She is mostly found in hospitals or medical clinics that have a history of malpractice, haunting the doctors and nurses that mistreat their patients. She uses medical equipment such as scissors and syringes to stab her victims, and despite her slow looks, she can be incredibly fast, catching you when you least expect it. There is no evidence about the Suster Najesit, but numerous sightings of ghosts in hospitals have been attributed to her, and her legend has inspired a lot of movies, stories, and books. Hantu Kepala Terbang. If you have seen our previous documentary about Japanese ghosts, you must be familiar with the Funayuri. A person that died at sea and now haunts shippers in a ghost boat. In Indonesia, a similar ghost exists, the Hantu Kepala Terbang, literally meaning the flying head ghost, a head without a body that flies through the air. It is said to haunt coastal and maritime areas, and similar to the Funayuri, it is said to have died at sea. The legend says that the Hantu Kepala Terbang is the spirit of a woman who was betrayed by her lover and left to drown at sea. Her head was severed from her body and her spirit returned as a ghost, seeking revenge against her unfaithful lover and anyone who crosses her path. While the Funa Yuri demands a broken bucket, the Hantu Kupala Turbang demands sailors to offer food, drink or other gifts. If you refuse to make a sacrifice, you are said to suffer misfortune, bad luck, or even death. If you want to prevent encountering these ghosts, it is believed that wearing a special talisman, typically made of gold or other precious metals inscribed with sacred symbols and prayers, can repel the ghost and protect its wearer from any harm. Pret. Another Indonesian ghost similar to a Japanese ghost is the Pret. Also coming from Buddhism, it is very similar to the Japanese Gaki, a small creature with a tiny mouth and a bulging belly. Similarly having difficulties to eat and find satisfaction. The main difference is that these creatures roam the earth, in contrast with the Gakis, that are trapped in some sort of purgatory. It is said to haunt people that waste food, trying to remind them about the importance of generosity and compassion. While these ghosts and humans occupy the same physical space, they will see things differently. Where a human while looking at a river would see clear water, a Pret would see the same river but full of things such as pus and filth. This is an example of how they are punished after living a life full of greed and jealousy. It is believed that the Pret is a manifestation of the Buddhist concept of karma, which teaches that every action has consequences and that your actions determine your future. To get rid of one of these ghosts, you should try to not waste food, and if this doesn't help, seeking help from a shaman that will perform a certain ritual might do the trick. But most of the times these ghosts are not to be feared. Actually, they are seen as being to be pitied. In some monasteries, monks leave offerings of foods and drinks for them before meals. Lokasi Turkituk. If you have watched our documentary about Japanese ghosts, I am sure you remember the Jikobukan. Stigmatized properties that are sold for low prices because events such as murder have occurred and now they are believed to be haunted. In Indonesia there is a similar concept which is known as the Lokasi Turkituk, places that are haunted due to past events that have occurred. However, these locations can be anything from graveyards, bridges, forests, abandoned buildings, or even volcanoes. For instance, the legend of Mount Merapi, an active volcano in central Java considered to be one of the most dangerous volcanoes in Indonesia. The story of Mount Merapi involves a mythical figure named Joko Lolono, a powerful sorcerer who lived on the slopes of the mountain. He was said to have magical powers and was extremely feared by the local people. One day the villagers decided to confront him and put an end to his dark behavior and wizardry. They fatally wounded him, and as he died he cursed the mountain. While taking his last breaths, he said that the mountain would continue to erupt until a person was sacrificed to appease its anger. Since this day, Mount Merapi has erupted a lot of times, causing destruction and even death. It is still believed that offerings should be made to prevent more eruptions to happen. Another famous Lokasi Turkituk is called the Taman Lawn, a popular shopping and entertainment center located in Jakarta. It is a place associated with prostitution and people that do sex work. In 2013, a story revealed that a group of men had been secretly filming their encounters with the prostitutes and that they shared the videos online. This sparked outrage throughout Indonesia and eventually led to the area being stigmatized as a cursed location, associated with the immoral behavior that has happened here. In many cultures, including Indonesian culture, it is said that places where immoral or illegal activity takes place attracts negative energies or spirits and ghosts. This contributes to the idea that the Taman Laong is a haunted site. The ghosts haunting this place can, for instance, be the workers that died after the incidents that happened here, seeking revenge to the males who abused the girls. Just like in Japan, ghosts and supernatural beliefs continue to have a big impact on today's society in Indonesia. Deeply ingrained in a culture, these stories are passed down from generation to generation through folklore, myths, and legends. It still has a huge impact on people's behavior and decisions, and it influences the way people treat each other as well as the ideas about illness, health, and death. It also contributes to the sense of community and shared cultural identity. Compared to Japanese ghosts, Indonesian ghosts often are described as more unpredictable and violent, and most of their stories come from a background of misfortune or death. While this is also the case with some Japanese ghosts, most of the Japanese ghosts are more depicted as sorrowful and tragic. Even though not all Indonesians believe in these ghosts, the stories and traditions around them are still very alive, haunting a big part of Indonesia still till this very day. There are places in this world where the veil between the living and the dead is paper-thin, and Thailand is one of them. Here, ghosts do not just linger in folklore. They are seen, heard, and felt. A security guard at a government building watches in horror as a shadowy figure glides across the marble floor, only to realize, on the surveillance footage, there was nobody there. A film crew making a horror movie about black magic finds their lead actress unable to move, her body paralyzed by an unseen force. An inmate in a Bangkok jail wakes up gasping for air, a ghostly figure in a red shirt pressing cold hands around his throat. These stories are not just rumors. They really happened. This is a land where the dead are not silent. Where ghost weddings, black magic, and ancient funerary rituals are not just traditions, but necessary precautions, because here, the spirits still walk among us. If you haven't yet, please make sure to subscribe for more of these kind of documentaries, it helps a lot, and also, please let me know what country's ghost stories you want me to cover next. Thai horror cinema has earned a reputation for being some of the most terrifying in the world. Films like Shudder, Alone, and P-Mac have captivated audiences with their bone-chilling narratives, blending traditional folklore with modern-day storytelling. But what makes Thai horror so uniquely unsettling? Some say it's the authenticity. Many of these films are said to be cursed, haunted by real spirits. Crew members report eerie happenings on set, unexplained accidents, and nightmares that seem too real to ignore. The film The Promise, based on a real-life haunted skyscraper, allegedly caused cast members to experience extreme psychological distress. The movie Art of the Devil introduced many to the gruesome world of Thai black magic, but some claim that the rituals depicted in the film were a little too real. Superstitions are deeply embedded in Thai culture. Beliefs in spirits, ghosts, and curses dictate everyday life. One of the most iconic symbols of this belief is the San Fra Phum, spirit houses found outside homes, businesses, and even government buildings. These miniature temples are offerings to guardian spirits, ensuring protection and harmony. But what happens when they are neglected? Tales tell of angry spirits seeking revenge, manifesting as strange whispers, phantom footsteps, and terrifying apparitions. Some shopkeepers swear that neglecting their San Fra Phum results in sudden financial ruin, while others tell stories of objects moving on their own or doors slamming shut with unseen hands. Then there are ghost weddings, an eerie practice where the living marry the dead. These ceremonies are performed to bring closure to spirits who died unmarried, preventing them from roaming restlessly. Some claim to have seen these spectral brides and grooms wandering in the night, seeking companionship even beyond the grave. Families who have lost young sons and daughters sometimes arrange these weddings, offering a final act of love to prevent their souls from becoming lost. There have been documented cases of people claiming to be possessed by the spirits of those who never had a proper wedding, speaking in voices not their own, pleading for a chance to marry. When you step off the plane and set foot in Suvarnabhumi Airport, the main gateway to Thailand, you might find yourself in more than just a bustling terminal. Beneath the modern design and constant movement lies a chilling secret: the airport is said to be haunted. Over the years, numerous visitors and employees have reported seeing apparitions, ghostly figures that appear in the shadows of the airport's vast halls. But the hauntings don't stop there. Car crashes, plane issues, and technical malfunctions are disturbingly common, with some attributing these problems to the restless spirits that linger in the air. The supernatural activity became so intense that, in a desperate attempt to bring peace to the terminal, 99 monks were called in to perform a 9-week exorcism ritual. Their task was to rid the airport of its malevolent presence. But really, it's no surprise that this airport might be haunted. Because this airport was built on what used to be a graveyard. Some might say they were simply asking for trouble. So, as you pass through the sleek halls of Suvarnabhumi, just remember, you may not be the only one there. Even Thailand's highest halls of power are not free from the supernatural. The Government House of Thailand, an elegant structure with Italian Gothic influences, harbors secrets far darker than its grand facade suggests. Staff members whisper of an unseen presence that roams the halls, flickering lights, disembodied voices, and objects moving on their own. Some have even seen shadowy figures reflected in the grand mirrors of the hallways, figures that vanish when turned to face directly. The most chilling tale dates back to the time of Prime Minister Prem Tinsalananda, who claimed to have seen a ghostly figure in the corridors late at night. The building's guards, too, have their own stories of doors unlocking by themselves, of unseen hands pulling at their uniforms, of muffled whispers in empty rooms. Many believe it is the spirit of a former government official, forever bound to the halls of power he once roamed in life, or perhaps something much older, watching from the shadows. Among the most feared places in Thailand's history lies the Crime Suppression Division jail cell. Inmates have reported seeing a male ghost wearing a red t-shirt, standing silently in the shadows before vanishing. Some say he is the spirit of a man who died under mysterious circumstances within the jail. Guards refuse to be stationed alone at night, and prisoners have woken up with bruises and scratches, claiming they were attacked by an unseen force. One prisoner once described waking up in the dead of night to the sound of heavy breathing just inches from his face. When he opened his eyes, he saw the man in the red shirt staring down at him, his eyes hollow, his mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. The prisoner screamed, and in an instant, the figure was gone. The next day, the man was found with deep red handprints around his throat, though no one had entered his cell during the night. Across Southeast Asia, terrifying spirits take many forms. The Kra Su, a grotesque floating head with its organs hanging under it, is found in Thai folklore and across the region. In Cambodia, it is called the Af, in the Philippines, the Manananggal. These spirits are said to be cursed women, condemned to hunt for blood and flesh under the cover of night. Then of course, there's the Preet. A ghost similar to Japan's Gaki, China's Igue, and the Pretas from India. Besides these spirits that can be found throughout Asia, Thailand also has its own unique ghosts. One of these ghosts is Lady Nak.
แม่นาคพระโขนงมีนะ The most legendary ghost story in Thai history.
Very famous Thai ghost story.
ทำไมมันไม่เหมือนผีตัวอื่นนะ
When you were young, you will hear like a granny will tell you about this.
Mae Nak's story has been told for generations, through whispers in the dark and retold in countless films. A beautiful young woman deeply in love, torn away from her husband by the cruel hand of death. While her husband was away at war, Lady Nak died tragically while giving birth. But when he returned home, he did not know. He found his wife waiting for him, welcoming him back into their home. But something was wrong. The villagers knew the truth. His wife was dead. And soon, he would be too. Lady Nak's love was so strong that even death could not separate her from her husband. She continued to live with him as if nothing had happened, until one night, when he saw her stretching her arm unnaturally long to reach for something she had dropped. Realizing his wife was a ghost, he fled in terror. The spirit of Lady Knock raged, killing those who tried to warn him, haunting the village with her sorrow and fury. Even today, her shrine in Bangkok remains a site of pilgrimage, where people leave offerings, hoping to gain blessings, or to ensure that she never visits them in the night. Not all spirits are bound by sorrow. Some are creatures of pure terror, like Krahang, a malevolent entity that appears as a man by day, but by night, transforms. His body covered in dark magic tattoos, his face contorted with an unnatural grin, Krahang flies through the night sky using two enormous woven baskets as wings. Witnesses describe a sinister figure, lurking in the trees, watching. Some say he preys on lone travelers, swooping down in the darkness, his presence marked only by a whisper in the wind.
A Swedish man was found hanged inside a deserted, unfinished high-rise building in Bangkok's Sathon district on Friday evening. Jor Sor 100 FM radio immediately contacted Yanawa police after being alerted about the tragedy at the 49-story Sathon Unique Tower building on Karoeng, Soi 51 off Charoen Road.
The Sathorn Unique Tower, a 49-story skyscraper in Bangkok, was once intended to be a symbol of luxury and progress. But in 1997, the Asian financial crisis struck, halting construction and leaving the building abandoned, half-finished, and forgotten by many. Soon after, whispers spread through the city. Locals believed the tower stood on cursed land, once home to sacred burial grounds disturbed during construction. The restless spirits of those disturbed were said to haunt the tower, and the eerie silence of the empty building only fueled these rumors. Those brave enough to enter the tower spoke of strange occurrences, shadowy figures, disembodied whispers, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Some claimed the spirits of the tower caused misfortune and even death.
You feel there's something or like a loud noise, or you might have seen something, don't acknowledge it. Just ignore it.
A Swedish tourist, for example, was found hanging on the 43rd floor in 2014 under mysterious circumstances, deepening the tower's chilling reputation. To ward off the restless spirits, locals placed spirit houses and offerings near the entrance, hoping to appease the ghosts. Despite the building being off-limits, urban explorers and ghost hunters still sneak inside, hoping to witness something supernatural. Many who enter report a heavy, oppressive feeling that stays with them long after they leave. Today, the Sathorn Unique Tower stands as a ghostly monument to lost ambition, its crumbling structure and dark legend cementing its place as one of Thailand's most haunted locations. In Thai folklore, few spirits are as feared as the Phai Thai Hong, the ghost of those who died violently or unjustly. These spirits are not at peace. Their deaths, through murder, sudden accidents, or betrayal, left them with unfinished business. As a result, they become vengeful entities, driven by anger and a need for retribution. A Phai Thai Hong's appearance is often described as horrifying, pale, disfigured, and filled with rage. Their twisted faces reflect the torment of their death. It's believed that these spirits haunt the places where they perished, seeking revenge on the living, especially those who caused their demise. Encountering one often brings sudden illness, misfortune, or even death to those unlucky enough to cross their path. Local legends say that Phai Thai Hong are particularly dangerous at night, when the boundary between the living and the dead is thin. Those who feel an unexplainable chill or a sense of dread are warned to avoid areas where these spirits are known to lurk. If a Phai Thai Hong is not appeased, its wrath is relentless. In the heart of Samut Prakan, the Bang Poo shoe factory stands abandoned, its walls hiding a dark history. Once a bustling hub of industry, it is now said to be haunted by tortured souls, and few dare to enter. The tragedy began with a powerful explosion caused by a malfunctioning air compressor, killing several workers and injuring many others. Despite the devastation, the owner reopened the factory, determined to keep the business going. However, strange occurrences plagued the workers who stayed behind. Many reported eerie encounters with the spirits of their fallen colleagues, and the once familiar factory became a place of terror. As fear spread, workers abandoned the factory, causing the business to collapse. Overcome by the failure of his enterprise, the owner tragically ended his own life within the factory walls. Today, the factory remains a ghostly relic of its past. Locals speak of the air thick with the scent of burnt embers and distant screams echoing through the night. No one dares to enter, and the factory remains haunted by the souls of those lost. The darkness in Thailand runs deeper than ghosts. It extends into the realm of black magic, forbidden now, but never forgotten. One of the most chilling practices was lukrok, a ritual that involved using the remains of stillborn babies to create powerful charms. These cursed objects, bound by ancient sorcery, were said to bring wealth and power, but at a terrible cost. Those who kept them reported hearing soft cries at night, feeling unseen hands grasp at them in the dark. Some say the spirits of these unborn children grew restless, their pain transforming them into vengeful entities. The practice has been forbidden now, but the stories remain. And some believe the remnants of this dark magic are still out there. Thailand is such a superstitious country, that even in death, precautions must be taken. Their funerals are filled with rituals to ensure the spirits of the dead find peace, and do not linger where they are not wanted. Mirrors in funeral halls are often covered, for it is believed that if a spirit sees its reflection, it will become trapped. Some families even burn the deceased's clothes so they have something to wear in the afterlife, ensuring they do not return, searching for what they lack. But as we learn today, sometimes, the dead refuse to leave. Thailand is a country of beauty, with great food and great people. But it is also a country of darkness and mystery. Ghosts do not only belong to the past. They are here, in the old temples, in the abandoned towers, in the forests where the wind carries their whispers. Some may dismiss them as stories, legends told to frighten. But those who have seen, those who have heard, they know the truth. The spirits are watching. And if you listen closely, in the stillness of night, you may hear them too. All over the world there are people who have encountered ghosts, supernatural beings, or spirits. Especially in Asia there are a lot of these stories. Compared to the rest of the world, Asia showcases a unique blend of ancient traditions, religious influences and cultural beliefs. Many Asian countries and cultures have very strong ties to spiritual traditions like for instance Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism and Islam. These religions are often intertwined with superstition, resulting in a blend where the supernatural and the divine are intricately intertwined. In India, a country with a population of more than 1.4 billion people, where they speak almost 400 different languages, it is normal that you can find a lot of these stories. Today, we will find out what the ghosts of India are like, where we can find them, and what impact it has on today's society. Welcome to the Glimp. Besides being known for Bollywood movies and introducing the world to yoga, India is a country known for its variety of breathtaking landscapes, a huge diversity of people, delicious curries, and of course, for its many religions and beliefs. These mystical beliefs have played an integral role in shaping the lives and perspectives of the people. From the Himalayas, the huge forests, to the beautiful shores and cities. In this country, it is not uncommon to witness people seeking guidance from fortune tellers, consulting astrologers, or even performing elaborate rituals to appease the gods. Superstitions in India are not only confined to religious practices but also have they seeped into everyday life. From the moment an individual wakes up, to the time they head to bed, these superstitions are influencing their actions, choices, and even their outlook on life itself. Whether it's making sure to not cross paths with black cats, avoiding stepping on cracks, or hanging lemons and chili to ward off evil spirits, these beliefs manifest themselves in the most unexpected ways. Just like Japan or Indonesia, the supernatural realm in India is filled with a huge array of ghosts and spirits, also known as Buddhas. These entities are deeply rooted in Indian mythology and regional folklore. Some of the ghosts in India fit the same descriptions as ghosts in Japan, Indonesia, or other parts of Asia. For instance, the Preta or Pret, which is similar to a Japanese Gaki, or the Don Kutra, which shares a lot of similarities with a Tuyul. But besides these ghosts, there are some ghosts that are native to India. Chudale. One of these ghosts is the Chudale, literally translating to witch. In most countries, witches aren't ghosts, they are mostly seen as humans that are using magic and rituals for different purposes. However, in India, according to traditional beliefs, these chudals are said to be the spirits of women who died under tragic circumstances. They are believed to have a huge appetite for human flesh and are known to prey on men, children, and pregnant women. It is said that they are beautiful women and are often depicted as seductive entities who use their beauty and charm to lure their victims. Besides the form of a beautiful woman, they can also shape-shift into animals. They do this to disguise themselves and roam freely without arousing any suspicion or attracting attention. It will allow her to approach her victims without being recognized, and thus increasing the chance of successfully carrying out her malevolent intentions. It is also said that she adopts animal form as a manifestation of her supernatural powers. Animals are often associated with primal instincts, mysticism, and symbolic significance. By transforming into an animal, it is said she can tap into these primal forces, harnessing their energy and invoking fear in those who encounter her. They often haunt graveyards, forests, or deserted places. They possess dark magical powers and can control the elements, cast spells, and inflict harm onto their victims. To prevent a chudale from haunting you, it is said you should wear a protective amulet. But if you are already haunted by one, you can make religious offerings and pray to create a protective barrier against her. Mohini. Just like the chudale, it is said that the Mohini is a beautiful female spirit that possesses the power to enchant and seduce men. They also use their charm to attract men. However, the difference with a chudale is that the chudale is a vengeful ghost, unlike the Mohini. Even though the Mohini is associated with stories of seduction and illusion, she is associated with tales of divine intervention and the triumph of good over evil. While the Mohini and the chudale are both beautiful female supernatural beings, their characteristics and cultural interpretations are very different. While the chudale lures people with her beauty for revenge and other evil reasons, the Mohini is said to have been created by Lord Vishnu for a specific divine purpose. She assumes the form of a beautiful woman to deceive and distract demons or other evil forces, aiding the gods or protecting the universe from harm. In some stories, she tempts men to test the ability of them to resist temptation and desire. It serves as a test of their willpower, character, and devotion to dharma, meaning righteousness. Mohini seduction can be seen like a reminder of the importance of self-control and the consequences of falling prey to desire. The Alaya Ghost Lights. Alaya is the name given to a strange light phenomenon occurring over the marshes. This phenomenon is especially witnessed a lot by the fishermen of Bangladesh and West Bengal. Derived from the word Alaya, which in Bengali means light, these apparitions have become the subject of countless stories. They are said to manifest as luminous orbs that hover above the marshes, defying explanation and captivating all those that witness their ethereal dance. They are described as pale, flashing orbs that hover above the water's surface, emitting an otherworldly glow. They are said to have a hypnotic effect, drawing people towards them with an unexplainable magnetic pull. It is said that it will make you lose your bearings and that it can even cause you to drown. Local communities in the region believe that these strange lights are in fact ghost lights, representing the ghosts of fishermen who died during their work. Sometimes they confuse the fishermen, but other times they help them avoid future dangers. Besides the belief that they are the ghosts of fishermen who drowned, it is also said that they are the guardians of the marshes, warning us of treacherous terrain or impending danger. They are a reminder of the deep connection between humans and nature, reminding us of the mysteries that are beyond our understanding, and the balance between the seen and the unseen. A lot of similar lights have been described in Japanese folklore. They are described as balls of fire or light, and are mostly associated with graveyards. But they occur across Japan as a whole in a wide variety of situations and locations. Some experts claim that these lights are a natural phenomenon. They could be bioluminescent organisms like, for instance, a firefly. Whether the lights are a product of a natural phenomenon or ethereal spirits, these dancing orbs spark our interest and curiosity, and inspire us to appreciate the wonders that surround us in the most unexpected places. Munachwa. Derived from the Hindi words mul, meaning face, and nachwa, meaning scratch, the Munachwa is an entity that is said to lurk in the darkness, preying on unsuspecting people. A malevolent spirit with a disfigured and twisted face that is believed to possess supernatural powers and a relentless desire to haunt the living. It is notorious for haunting the outskirts of villages, seeking out individuals who are walking alone at night time. With its claw-like hands, it is said that they scratch the faces of its victims, leaving deep, ugly marks as a permanent reminder of its horrible encounter. There is no specific historical or documented source that explains where the Munachwa comes from, and like many supernatural creatures in folklore, it is likely a product of tradition, serving as a way to warn people, especially women and children, about the dangers that may exist in the darkness. It reflects the underlying fears associated with the unknown and the vulnerability felt during the nighttime. Nale Ba. Deep within the alleys of Karnataka, whispers of an evil spirit known as the Nale Ba echo through the night. Like a chilling gust of wind, the legend of this ghost has found its way across the numerous towns and villages here, leaving a trail of fear. Deriving from the words Nale, meaning tomorrow, and Ba, meaning come, the Nale Ba is an entity that is said to announce its arrival to its victims. She does this by, for instance, carving her name on the doors and walls of villages. It is a vengeful female spirit that is believed to lurk in the shadows. Draped in a flowing white sari, the most famous type of Indian dress, and her face hidden beneath a veil of darkness. It is said that these ghosts take away children. People believe that they roam around houses and that they call out the names of people without the phrase written above their door. If you reply, the Nale Ba will cut off your tongue, and it is said that then you will die by vomiting blood. It is said she speaks in voices of familiar people, so you would be deceived to open the door. In another variation of the myth, the Nale Ba is believed to be a bridal ghost that roams around the villages in search of her husband. She will take away the man of the house, who is often the sole earning member of the family, and therefore, bringing bad luck to the entire household. Pishacha. Pishachas are flesh-eating demons in dharmic religions, appearing in both Hindu and Buddhist mythologies. It is often referred to as the very manifestation of evil, striking fear into the hearts of those who dare to speak its name. Its twisted form, with elongated limbs and sharp fangs, is said to embody the darkness that resides within the human soul. The appearance of the Pishacha varies, but it is commonly described as a disheveled and terrifying being, with eyes that burn with an evil gleam. The Mahabharata, one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India, states that the original Pishacha was the creation of Brahma, also referred to as the Creator, within the Trimurti, the Trinity of Supreme Divinity that also includes Vishnu and Shiva. Pishachas like darkness and are just like the Chudail, supposed to possess the ability to shape-shift and assume any form at will, and they can even become invisible. They feed on human energy and sometimes even possess human beings and alter their thoughts. The victims are afflicted with a variety of abnormalities, like insanity. There are special mantras that are supposed to cure these persons and drive away the Pishacha possessing the person. In order to keep them away, they are given their share of offerings during religious functions and festivals. Vetala. In the Western world we are all familiar with the concept of a vampire. An undead creature with superhuman strength with a huge thirst for blood. And in Hindu folklore, there is a creature that is often compared with them. This creature is known as the Vetala. The Vetala is an evil spirit that haunts cemeteries at night and takes demonic possession of the dead. Reanimated corpses are used as vehicles by these spirits to make their displeasure known by haunting humans. They can drive people mad, kill children and cause miscarriages. Because they are unaffected by the laws of space and time, they have a lot of knowledge about the past, present and future, and give us a deep insight into human nature. For this reason a lot of sorcerers seek to capture one of these Vetalas to turn them into slaves. One of the most famous stories that involves a Vetala is found in the collection of stories known as the Vetala Panchavamshati, meaning 25 tales of the Vetala. These tales revolve around the king Vikramaditya, who is tasked with capturing a Vetala hanging from a tree. But every time he captures the Vetala, it tells him a story and a riddle. If the king answers the riddle correctly, the Vetala would turn back to its resting place. The stories in these series are known for their moral and ethical dilemmas. Where Western vampires require garlic or a sword made of silver to get rid of them, a Vetala needs mantras, chants, rituals and offerings to get rid. But Vetalas are not all bad. They are also seen as spiritual guides that provide guidance to people. They may assist in matters of protection, or resolve conflicts within communities. It is also said that they guard villages. They are believed to watch over the well-being and safety of the village and its inhabitants. They use their powers to keep away other malevolent spirits or other harmful influences. Nishi-Dok. Imagine walking home at night and you all of a sudden hear a family member calling you. Hypnotized by the voice, you decide to follow the sound, and all of a sudden you get attacked by a terrifying monster, which most of the times you don't survive. This ghost is said to be used by black magicians to kill or harm people and is known as the Nishi-Dok. It belongs to the most dangerous category of ghosts and is very common in Bengal. Nishi means dark or night, and Dok means called. It is also known as the night spirit. It is said that her voice comes from far away, and just like the Nale Ba, she uses the voice of a loved one to lure you. When a victim follows the sound, and no one sees them, they will reach a deserted place, where the victim has to face the real form of the Nishi, a terrifying monster, with only one goal, which is to kill you. According to folklore, the Nishi-Dok cannot call a name out more than twice, and thus to be safe, you should not answer unless you get called at least 3 times. A common story in Bengal is that the phenomena of sleepwalking and sleep paralysis are caused by the Nishi-Dok. They might just be hallucinations, a common phenomenon while having sleep paralysis, but in here, a lot of people believe that it is the Nishi-Dok haunting them. British ghosts. During the colonial era in India, it is said that the British left a lot of ghosts in the country. The stories of these ghosts created a unique blend of cultural influences. There are tales of haunted colonial bungalows, abandoned mansions and old buildings that are believed to be inhabited by the spirits of British soldiers, officials, or civilians that died during this era. The Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Indian Mutiny, against British ruling, resulted in a lot of violence and a lot of deaths. For this reason it is said that many of the spirits of these people haunt certain areas. A famous example of one of these ghosts is the ghost of Sir William Harcourt, a British official. It is said that he haunts the Shimla railway station in Himachal Pradesh. He died in an unknown way, adding more mystery to the story, and his ghost has been seen wandering on the platforms, or sitting inside the train compartments. Another famous example of these type of ghosts is the ghost of Victoria Memorial. The Victoria Memorial in Kolkata is a magnificent marble structure dedicated to Queen Victoria, and according to the guards and visitors, the statue inside the memorial comes to life at night. Witnesses have claimed to see her statue change expressions, or sometimes even step down from her pedestal. Besides that, people have heard unexplainable sounds, whispers, footsteps and cries within the memorial. A lot of people feel a sense of being watched or followed in particular parts of the museum, such as the garden. Besides the places that are haunted because of the colonial era, there are a lot of other places that are said to be haunted. One famous example in India is the Buli Bhattiyari Ka Mahal in Delhi. This place is said to be one of the most haunted places in India. Every night you can hear screams of women and children, and it is said to be possessed by a queen who died there more than 600 years ago. She visits the place every night, and because of this, no security guard has been able to work there for more than a day. One of the biggest Bollywood production cities in India, Ramoji, has a paranormal history as well. The land it was built on was a war ground, and the ghosts of the past haunt the film's city today. From random freak accidents, to marked mirrors and more, this film's city has a lot of supernatural activity, which for sure helps with their Bollywood movies. Nowadays you can still see a lot of influence of paranormal folklore in Bollywood. Filmmakers often consider superstitious beliefs when choosing a title or setting a release date for their movie. They for instance believe that certain words may bring good or bad luck. For example, many filmmakers avoid using titles with negative connotations or superstitions associated with them. Besides these things, supernatural topics and horror have also influenced the themes and storytelling in Bollywood. Many of these projects draw inspiration from folklore, legends, and ghostly tales, incorporating elements of superstition to create a creepy atmosphere. The stories surrounding India's ghosts and haunted places show us the fascination with the unknown, and our ambition to explore the mysterious realms beyond our comprehension. They inspire us to embrace the mysteries that lie just beyond our reach, asking us to explore the paranormal realms. The ghosts of India serve as a reminder that our society is probably not just composed of the living, but also encompasses the spirits of the past, that still linger in the dark corners of society today. In our last ghost episodes we covered the ghosts of India, Indonesia, and Japan, but outside of Asia there are a lot of haunted places to be found too. For this episode we travel to the other side of the world, to an island that is famous for its beautiful beaches, jerk dishes, rum, and not to forget, reggae music. Of course we are talking about Jamaica. Jamaica is a country rich in traditions and folklore. It is a fascinating place full of superstitions and beliefs. Within this tapestry of superstitions you can find a realm where the supernatural reigns supreme, filled with tales of ghosts and spirits that have captivated the imaginations of generations. The stories of these ghosts and legends provide a glimpse into the mystical world that intertwines with the everyday life on the island. From avoiding black cats, to the practices of obia, a belief system and practice incorporating elements of magic and sorcery for various purposes. Jamaican superstitions provide a unique perspective to explore the realm of the supernatural. Among these beliefs, the presence of ghosts, known as duppies, stands out, fascinating the minds of Jamaicans across the country. Today, we will learn a bit more about these duppies and the supernatural kingdom of Jamaica. Welcome to the Glimp. Duppy. The word duppy is said to have its origins in West Africa, where they call a spirit or soul an adupon. It is said that through the transatlantic slave trade, the term adupon was brought to the Caribbean, where it evolved into duppy, and became a part of Jamaican folklore and culture. Duppies have been a common theme in Jamaican music, particularly in genres like dancehall and reggae. A lot of songs refer to these duppies, their supernatural powers and their presence in Jamaica. Famous artists such as Bob Marley, Peter Tosh and Burning Spear have included the topic in their songs, adding to the mystique and cultural significance of these ghosts. Just like duppies and reggae music, rum plays a significant role in Jamaica, and there actually is a connection between these duppies and rum as well. It is believed that rum has the power to appease or ward off duppies. For instance, offering a glass of rum to a duppy can help to satisfy or calm them, preventing them from causing harm or disturbing you. The tradition of giving rum to the ghosts is often practiced during rituals, such as 9-night ceremonies, which are held to commemorate the dead. During these ceremonies, people pour or offer rum at grave sites or in designated areas to honor the spirits of the deceased. Besides that, rum is sometimes used in other rituals too, mostly within the practices of the obia. Besides offering rum, there are also other offerings you can make to ward off duppies, such as holy water or food. And trust me, after getting to know these duppies, you really don't want to make them angry, because these duppies are some of the most terrifying beings you can imagine. The rolling cough.
Imagine walking down the street at night and all of a sudden you hear chains dragging somewhere in the darkness. You look intently, but you see nothing. So you keep walking. But there they go again. With each step you make, you hear chains dragging. You look again, and this time, you see two evil red eyes, hungry teeth, attached to an angry, menacing bull. That, my friends, is a rolling cough.
The rolling cough is a famous duppy often associated with Jamaican folklore. A shape-shifting spirit that appears as a monstrous, cough-like creature with glowing red eyes. It is said that the rolling cough is the spirit of an unbaptized child or the soul of a person who made a pact with dark forces during their life. You can find these ghosts in the countryside, mostly at night, and its presence is usually accompanied by eerie sounds, such as rattling chains or clanking metal. The rolling cough is well known to be an evil creature, and encountering it is considered to be extremely dangerous. It preys on unsuspecting individuals, chasing them through fields, empty roads, or secluded areas. It is said to possess supernatural strength and speed, making it very difficult to escape once the ghost has set its eyes on you. You can try to run, but because of the speed of the ghost, it is likely that you won't be able to be faster. Instead, there are other suggested protective measures you can try to ward off a rolling cough. These include wearing your clothes inside out, carrying a black-handled knife, or placing a small handful of sand or salt in your pocket. These actions are believed to confuse the creature. The rolling cough is deeply ingrained in Jamaican culture, and the scary stories about it have been passed down through generations. It serves as a cautionary tale and a reminder to be cautious when going out at night, especially in rural areas. While it is primarily a part of folklore and mythology, a lot of Jamaicans believe in its existence and the potential dangers of it. The legend of the Golden Table and the River Mama.
In Jamaican cosmology, the river is known for giving life, transformation, blessings, and connection with the divine. However, for those whose hearts are greedy and stubborn, something nefarious lays wait for their souls.
At the bottom of certain rivers lies a table. But not just any table, we are talking about a table made of pure gold. And from time to time, at midday, this table rises to the surface, allowing people to see it. A problem for the greedy people, who usually get mesmerized by the sight of it, and become obsessed with obtaining it. Efforts to get the table always results in the death of those trying to remove it. The legend of the Golden Table stems from the search to find gold when the Spanish first arrived in Jamaica. But this table is not the only wicked thing in the river. There is also a ghost haunting the waters of Jamaica.
River Mama takes no prisoners. She combs her hair, her long, beautiful hair, with a shiny, attractive-looking golden comb. From time to time, she would leave this golden comb on the bank of the river, and the man foolish enough to lay his hand on it, well, dog nam him supper. He would get snatched up and pulled into the river, never to be seen or heard of again.
The River Mama is a fascinating ghost in Jamaican folklore, usually described as a female water spirit, or a mermaid-like creature that lives in rivers, streams, and bodies of water all over the island. The River Mama is said to possess a mesmerizing beauty, and she is mostly depicted as an attractive woman with long flowing hair with fish-like attributes such as scales or a fishtail. She has the ability to transform into different forms, including that of a seductive woman or a half-human, half-fish creature. She is a guardian of the waterways and is also associated with the protection of aquatic life. It is said she has the power to control the water, its flow, and its inhabitants. She has a deep connection with nature, and her presence is often accompanied by the sound of water flowing or melodic singing. Encountering her can be both enchanting and dangerous. She possesses magical abilities and can lure unsuspecting individuals, especially men, into the water. A lot of times she is described as a vengeful spirit who may drown those who disrespect or harm the natural environment, those who are greedy, or those who attempt to uncover her secrets. To protect yourself from the influence of a River Mama, Jamaican folklore suggests various precautions. For instance, try to avoid swimming alone in rivers and refrain yourself from disrespectful behavior towards the water or its inhabitants. Also, don't get greedy when you see a golden object on the river banks and obsess over it. Instead, do the opposite, and instead of taking from her, give her things. Because like a lot of ghosts, she also appreciates the offering of gifts or tributes. Old Hig.
Nowadays people talk about skinwalkers and shapeshifters. Well, centuries ago, Jamaicans had the old Hig, who would shed her mortal human skin and prowl about the night looking for something or someone to consume. Some even suggest that Annie Palmer, the White Witch of Rose Hall, was one of these old Higs. She was the most wicked plantation owner of Jamaica. But be not afraid, because if you find the skin of one of these old Higs, just add salt and pepper, and when she tries to re-enter her skin, watch her screech and scream while she withers and meets her peril.
The Old Hig is a well-known character in Jamaican folklore. Also known as the Old Hag or Succulent in other Caribbean countries, this duppy is believed to be a female supernatural being with the ability to shed her human skin and transform into a ball of fire or a creature resembling an old woman. She is often described as a wrinkled old woman who wears a white gown, and just like the rolling calf, has fiery red eyes. She is a nocturnal creature that visits homes at night, seeking to suck the blood of sleeping individuals, particularly the blood of young children and infants. To do so, she removes her human skin and takes the form of a fireball, allowing her to pass through keyholes or any other small opening to gain entry. She is feared for her supernatural powers and malevolent intentions. However, she is not invincible. A common practice to ward off or capture an old hag is to place a sieve or a strainer near a sleeping person, as it is said that the creature must count the holes before it can continue its blood-sucking activities. This counting process is said to delay her until daybreak, when she must put on her human skin again. The legend of the old hag serves as a cautionary tale for children and a means of explaining unexplained phenomena, such as illnesses or unexplained marks on the skin. The story is often used to encourage good behavior and obedience, as kids are warned about the consequences of misbehaving or staying up late. Blackheart Man. In Jamaican folklore, the term Blackheart Man refers to a vengeful and feared supernatural entity. It is often depicted as a figure with dark or blackened skin and glowing red eyes, instilling fear and unease in those who encounter it. The Blackheart Man is believed to be a restless spirit that preys on the living. It possesses powerful dark magic and is associated with evil deeds, misfortune and curses. The origins of the Blackheart Man can be different depending on individual interpretations.
When I was a boy, the Blackheart Man was told to me as a man with bloodshot eyes and long dreadlocks, who would snatch up children by enticing them with candy and charm. However, as I've grown up, I now see that that image of the Blackheart Man was mainly because of the fear of Rastafarians that had no basis in truth. Because you see, the truth is, anyone can be the Blackheart Man, since that spirit possesses anyone with a wicked heart and evil intentions. As Bunny Wailer says, he lives in gullies. He lives in the lonely parts of the country. Now the Blackheart Man has become the wonder of the city.
The legend of the Blackheart Man has been popularized in Jamaican music, particularly reggae music, through songs like Blackheart Man by Bunny Wailer. The term is often used metaphorically to represent deceitful, malicious individuals or people that have a negative influence on society. While the stories of the Blackheart Man have contributed to the rich tapestry of Jamaican folklore, it is not a widely recognized or documented supernatural entity, and it is important to note that the Blackheart Man is primarily a fictional character and a symbolic figure. Whooping Boy and the 3-Foot Horse. The Whooping Boy has long hair and red eyes, and as the name suggests, the Whooping Boy makes a whooping sound and is often seen riding another duppy, the 3-Foot Horse. You can also witness him dancing on twigs in dense woodlands where it is said he is at his most dangerous. It is most likely to be encountered in the darkness on a moonlit night, and if you become a victim of this duppy, he will try to kill you by breathing hot air to you. The 3-Foot Horse is a horse with 3 legs and said to be faster than a normal horse, and also kills its victims by breathing hot air onto them. It can be evaded by climbing in a tree or staying in the moonlight. In life, the Whooping Boy was a mischievous child that was known to pull horrible pranks on people. Late at night he would hide in the bushes and wait until an unsuspecting traveler passed the bushes he was hiding in. He would then jump out and make loud whooping sounds while swinging his whip, scaring the person away. This prank eventually would become his downfall, as one time he scared an old priest, who then died because of a heart attack. The young boy tried to hide the body, but through divine retribution, the kid was attacked by a group of stray dogs, which led to his death. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown is a well-known character in Jamaica and is often referred to as a ghost, riding a three-wheeled coffin, haunting various locations in Jamaica. One of Bob Marley's earliest songs, dating back to 1970, is also talking about Mr. Brown, which probably popularized the stories of Mr. Brown. The tales surrounding Mr. Brown are passed down through generations and vary across different regions. Mr. Brown is known for his distinctive appearance, often described as a short, stocky man, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, including a wide-brimmed hat and a long coat. Sometimes he is also depicted with glowing red eyes or a disfigured face, adding to his eerie and supernatural aura. He is believed to roam at night, especially in rural areas, and just like the Whooping Boy, he is known for playing pranks on unsuspecting individuals. His tricks range from harmless mischief, such as making objects disappear or creating scary sounds, to more serious encounters, like appearing in front of people almost causing a heart attack. Some people say he is a restless spirit seeking revenge, while others say he is a guardian of certain locations. Others describe him as a mischievous ghost who simply enjoys scaring and playing tricks on people for his own amusement. Whether the Duppies of Jamaica are real or not, the stories around them play a big part in Jamaica's society. Hopefully these stories may continue to be told, allowing the spirits to live on, etched in the hearts and minds of those who hear their eerie whispers. In these tales we find not only the spirits of the departed, but also a connection to the soul of Jamaica itself. A land where folklore and reality dance hand in hand.
Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown. Anyone seen Mr. Brown? If you see a three-wheeled coffin and two jonquils, or vultures, asking for Mr. Brown, do as the Jamaicans do. Hear and deaf, see and blind. Because the next person they could come looking for is you.
Mexico is a country with a rich past. The beliefs of the Maya, Nahua, Purepecha and other indigenous groups, combined with the Catholic beliefs of the Spanish, created a culture in which supernatural beliefs are a super important factor. Before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in the early 16th century, this country was already home to various civilizations, including the Aztecs, Mayas, and many others. They had their own rich traditions and folklore. When the Spanish conquistadors brought Catholicism into Mexico, it got mixed with the indigenous beliefs, creating a unique blend of indigenous and European folklore. Today, we will find out more about the superstitions and ghosts in Mexico, but before we start, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. This helps our channel to grow and make more videos. Thank you. Welcome to the Glimpse. The Mayans, who existed for thousands of years in what is now known as Mexico, had a very complex belief system. It included different aspects of spirituality, cosmology, and interactions with the spirit world. For example, they believed in the existence of ancestral spirits, and honoring the deceased ancestors was an important aspect of their religion. Ancestors were thought to continue to play a role in the lives of the living, offering guidance and protection. They also believed in an underworld, known as Xibalba, a realm inhabited by spirits, gods, and demons. Whenever a person died, it was believed that their soul went to Xibalba, where the soul would face different trials and challenges. Offerings and rituals were necessary to ensure a safe passage for the deceased through the dangerous journey in the underworld. These rituals often involved the burial of the deceased with grave goods, food, and the construction of tombs. Sometimes, the spirits of the deceased could return to the world of the living. They might appear in dreams, visions, or as ghostly entities. A lot of times they were seen as messengers or as omens, giving warnings, or guidance to the living. Shamans and ritual specialists played a crucial role in this, as they were able to mediate between the living and the dead. The Aztecs, who thrived in Mesoamerica from the 14th to the 16th century, also had a complex belief system. While their worldview was influenced by their polytheistic religion, meaning that they believed in more than only one god, and cosmology, their beliefs about ghosts, spirits, and the afterlife were interconnected with these spiritual concepts. The Aztecs believed in multiple realms within the afterlife, and when a person passes, determined on the quality of their actions in life, and circumstances of their death, they were thought to go to one place, or another. Honorable deaths, such as those in battle or childbirth, were thought to lead to a better afterlife. Just like the Mayans, the Aztecs also appeased the ancestral spirits, and they also believed that the spirits of the dead could come back to the world of the living. They often kept the skulls of deceased family members as a form of honoring. These skulls were decorated with jewelry and offerings and were considered sacred. Both the Mayas and the Aztecs already celebrated their own version of the Day of the Dead. The Mayans called it Hanal Pixin, and the Aztecs called it Miquelhuitantli. Just like nowadays, this was dedicated to honoring the deceased, by setting up altars with offerings of food, candles and other goods. The belief was that the spirits then would return to partake in the offerings, and be with their living relatives. In Catholicism, beliefs about ghosts and spirits are not explicitly defined or central to the faith. Catholicism revolves around the belief in one God, the Holy Trinity, and the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. The combination of these backgrounds makes Mexico a very interesting country with many different aspects from different religions and traditions. Some of the ghosts you can find in Mexico belong to the scariest ghosts you can imagine. One of these ghosts is a famous ghost known as La Llorona. The legend of La Llorona revolves around an indigenous Aztec woman named Maria. She is usually portrayed as a young and attractive woman that married a wealthy Spaniard, something that happened often in the colonial era. She is also known as the Crying Woman or the Wailer, and is a vengeful ghost who is said to roam near bodies of water. She is mourning her children that she drowned after she got jealous finding out her rich husband was cheating on her. Because of this, La Llorona is said to be cursed, condemned to roam the earth for all eternity, in search of her children, while crying out loud. People that claim to have seen her apparition say it's a frightening sight. With long, disheveled hair, covering her face, and dressed in white, she scares anyone that sees or hears her. While she is not typically portrayed as physically harming or attacking her victims, the fear associated with her stems from the psychological impact of encountering her. Encountering her is believed to be an omen of misfortune, and some versions of the legend suggest that hearing her cries may foreshadow tragedy or death. The legend of La Llorona serves as a cautionary tale and warns us against the consequences of jealousy, revenge, and the neglect of one's family. The stories about her have been used to scare children into behaving and listening to their parents. The earliest documentation of La Llorona is traced back to 1550 in Mexico City, but over time, the stories have become a part of pop culture, inspiring books, movies, and theater. Till this day she continues to be a prominent figure in Hispanic folklore, and continues to be a source of fascination and fear for many. La Planchada. Another good-looking female ghost revolves around a woman named Eulalia. One day, a girl named Eulalia became part of the nursing staff at the hospital. She was a good-looking girl with blonde hair, pale eyes, and she had a polite demeanor. From the day she started working in the medical institution, she showed great professionalism. She was always showing concern with the medical staff and with the sick poor people, to whom she was dedicated in a way that sometimes went beyond just duty. She was always very clean and tidy, and her white uniform was always perfectly ironed. Her life was quite perfect and calm. However, one day everything changed. One day the hospital introduced a new doctor, Dr. Joaquin, an intelligent, handsome man who came from a good family, but with a certain air of arrogance. He flirted with a lot of the nurses and he was quite egocentric. Despite this, after working together on patients, Eulalia fell in love with the new doctor, and after some months, she agreed to be his girlfriend, and at some point, he even proposed to her. However, she needed to wait for the wedding, since Joaquin first had to go to a 15-day seminar in another city. She was missing him a lot, and after about a week, another nurse approached her and told her the shocking news, that Dr. Joaquin had resigned from the hospital and went on a honeymoon trip with his new wife. The news left Eulalia completely frozen and heartbroken. Secretly she was hoping for him to come back and for the story not to be true. But after waiting for years, she became a cold, silent and gloomy woman that did not bond with any man ever again. One day, a new nurse arrived at the hospital. She was young and beautiful and wore a perfectly white uniform, just like Eulalia had when she was in the prime of her health. The rumor was spread that the new nurse was the reincarnation of the sick nurse, and she became known as La Planchada, meaning ironed, because of her perfectly ironed uniform. The story says that La Planchada was more than just a skilled nurse. She had supernatural abilities and could heal patients with a single touch. People that got taken care of by her experienced miraculous recoveries. However, her touch was said to be cold, and her eyes held a haunted look. Whether she was a ghost or a gifted nurse with a tragic past, her story continues to be told, sending shivers down the spine of those who hear it. El Cucuy. When it comes to ghosts that can scare people, especially kids, out of their wits, and send shivers down one's spine, it is hard to find one better than El Cucuy, the Mexican version of the boogeyman. Once upon a time a father was really angry at his kids, and he decided to lock them in a closet. After a while he decided to go to town and run some errands, but he forgot to take his kids out of the closet. When he came back he saw that his house caught on fire and that his kids had died. And because of this, the father was cursed. In disbelief, he started searching for his kids in many different closets. It has been years, but he never found them. The name El Cucuy originates from Spain, where the word coco means coconut. However, in certain uses, it also means the human head or skull. This name is in reference to the appearance of this ghost, who is described often to have a brown skin like the shell of a coconut. He is described as a scary creature that is small, deformed, and hairy all over. Just like the Western version of the boogeyman, he hides in closets and then proceeds to kidnap kids. Parents in Mexico would often discipline their kids with the threat of El Cucuy if they do not behave. El Cucuy has the power to shape-shift and take on the appearance of a shadow, allowing him to enter the rooms of children undetected. He then would proceed to watch them in silence for a long time, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when the moment is there, he would strike, carrying the kid off with him to his lair, that is located deep in the mountains. There, he would proceed to slowly eat the child. The El Cucuy story originated in Europe, and it came to Latin America during the period of European colonization. However, the story mingled with the local culture and became a different version of the original legend. La Pascualita. Embalming corpses is a common practice around the world. In the Vatican you can view several popes, and in Moscow's Red Square, loads of people flock to see Lenin's preserved body. A lot of these corpses serve a historical purpose, but this is definitely not the case with La Pascualita, a tourist attraction that has people wondering whether it's a mannequin or corpse. This mannequin first appeared in a bridal shop window, located in Chihuahua, in 1930. With a lifelike face, veins on her body and hands that have a lot of details, La Pascualita is a more lifelike mannequin than any department store mannequin you've ever seen. After appearing for the first time, the locals were immediately struck, not only by the lifelike appearance, but more so by the close resemblance she had with the daughter of the shop owner, named Pascuala Esparza. The story says that the daughter was about to get married, but before she could, she was bitten by a black widow spider, and died on her wedding day. It wasn't long after her death that the mannequin appeared in the shop window. This gave birth to the idea that the mannequin in fact is the daughter of Pascuala Esparza. Over the years, a lot of customers have claimed that her eyes follow them as they walk around the store, or that when they turn their back on her, and they look again, that she has changed her position. Even the shop workers get nervous from her, breaking out in sweat every time they go near her. Another story claims that La Pascualita indeed started out as a mannequin, but a French magician became so entranced by the mannequin that he would visit her window each night and bring her to life, dancing with her and bringing her around town, before returning her to the store each morning. It is improbable that an embalmed corpse could remain completely intact in the Mexican heat for 8 decades, but the current shop owner is aware that La Pascualita is good for business. The Island of the Dolls. While we are at it, we continue the story with more lifelike dolls. But this story is not about a mannequin, but about actual dolls. Located in a chinampa of the Laguna de Tequila, you can find what is called Isla de las Muñecas, or in English, the Island of the Dolls. This small island is home to hundreds of terrifying dolls. Their severed limbs and decapitated heads can be found all over the place. The story behind this place is that a girl was found dead by Don Julian Santana Barrera, the caretaker of the island. The girl was drowned in a mysterious way, many years ago, and it is said that the dolls are possessed by her spirit. People claim that the dolls move their heads and arms, and open and close their eyes, haunting the people that visit the place. Other people claim that these dolls are whispering to each other, while other people who were on a boat near the island, said that the dolls lured them to come down to the island. Julian, the caretaker, was apparently haunted by the spirit of this little girl, and started hanging more dolls, in an attempt to please her spirit. Soon after he realized that the dolls were possessed by the spirits of dead girls, he continued to collect creepy dolls, hanging them over the entire island. People close to Julian said that it was as if Julian was driven by some unseen force, that completely changed him. He was devastated by the fact he couldn't save the drowned girl. After 50 years of collecting dolls and hanging them all over the island, Julian himself was found dead, drowned in exactly the same spot as where the girl drowned. Some people believe Julian's spirit now also roams the island. El Charro Negro. The term charro traditionally refers to a Mexican horseman or cowboy and is often associated with the distinctive traditional attire and cowboy skills. However, El Charro Negro is a darker version of this character, and it is thought that he is a malevolent ghost cowboy, dressed in all black. He is said to haunt desolate roads and crossroads, appearing at night, when you are walking on your own. El Charro Negro is often associated with crossroads. This is because in folklore, crossroads are considered to be spaces where the boundaries between the living and the dead are believed to be thinner. Encounters with El Charro Negro are often considered ominous and foreboding, and they are usually seen as a bad omen. When you encounter El Charro Negro, it is believed to bring misfortune or death, but in some cases, he asks you to get on his horse, or you receive coins from him, and if this happens, he will give you good luck. In Latin America, there are many versions of this legend. But overall it is believed that he is the ghost of a deceased cowboy, who was wronged or suffered an unjust fate during his lifetime, and when he returns from the afterlife, he is seeking revenge. These are some of the most eerie ghost stories you can find in Mexico, and of course, there are more ghost stories to be found here. If you would be interested in these, please let me know. As we learned today, ghosts still play a significant role in the Mexican society, and probably this won't stop anytime soon. These stories are deeply rooted and come from an interesting past that embody the blend of indigenous, European, and other cultural influences that have shaped the country over centuries. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the tales of these ghosts continue to intrigue, captivate, and inspire us, inviting us to embrace the mysteries of the Mexican culture. The Philippines is a Southeast Asian archipelago located in the western Pacific Ocean, surrounded by different countries such as China, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And just like most Asian countries, you can find a lot of superstitions here. Some of these stories are similar to other stories in Asia or the rest of the world, while other stories and ghosts are solely found in the Philippines, and let me tell you, these entities will give you the chills when you encounter them. From harmful spirits that can detach their limbs, to shape-shifting monster-like ghosts, the Philippines have no shortage of scary stories with these entities around. In the past, Filipinos have seen their share of occupation. In the year 1521 the Spanish arrived, and they have been occupied by the Spanish conquistadors for approximately 333 years. In fact, the country was actually named after King Philip II of Spain. After the Spanish occupation, the United States took control of the land and the country became an American colony. Around the end of the American colonization, during the Second World War, the Philippines were occupied by the Japanese, from 1942 to 1945, until it finally gained independence in 1946. These periods of colonization have significantly impacted the country's superstitions and belief systems. During the Spanish colonization, there was a blending of indigenous animistic beliefs with Catholicism, while the presence of the U.S. military, especially during the Cold War era, exposed the country to Western culture and ideas. Nowadays, bustling high-tech cities are full of traffic and congestion, but if you want to know more about the ghosts and folklore, you can best take a trip to the rural farmland areas, where the local culture is preserved well. For a Filipino, it is not uncommon to hear about urban legends and ghost stories from a family member or friend. To this day, the country remains very spiritual, and the belief in ghosts and hauntings is still very active. Let's dive a bit deeper into these ghosts. Welcome to the Glimp. The Filipino term for a ghost is multo, which is derived from the Spanish word muerto, meaning dead, or it is also called an espirito, which is derived from the word spirit. Most of the ghosts are seen as the soul of a deceased person that has made its return to the mortal world, sometimes to finish an incomplete task or promise, or other times to take revenge. Reasons can vary from an improper burial to an unusual death, like suicide, but there are also other reasons why a ghost comes back to the mortal world. Let's list some of the types of ghosts and spirits you can find in the Philippines. Manananggal. The Manananggal is a famous ghost in the Philippines, known for a very particular reason. The name of this ghost literally means to separate or to remove in Tagalog, one of the major languages spoken in the country. And as the name suggests, this ghost is able to sever its upper torso from its lower body, and then fly around. She is depicted as a beautiful woman during the day, but don't let that fool you, because during the night time you don't want to encounter her, as this is the time she will sever her upper torso, and transform into this huge bat-like creature with sharp claws. Especially not when you are a pregnant woman, the meal of her choice. She loves to eat human flesh and blood, and uses her long tongue to reach into the womb of a pregnant woman, for then to feed on the fetus, blood or organs. While she is doing this, her lower body is left defenseless, and in some stories, it is said that the lower half is vulnerable to salt, garlic or ash. And when you put one of these substances on the lower torso, it will prevent her from reattaching and becoming whole again. This ghost is often associated with secluded or isolated areas where the night is darker, and to prevent encountering her, some people think it helps to always have a light on. The Manananggal is not confined to a specific region, and different provinces in the country have their own variations of the Manananggal, but one thing all the stories of this ghost have in common, and that is that no person ever wants to encounter her. Tikbalang. Another famous ghost from the Philippines is known as the Tikbalang, a creature said to lurk in the mountains and rainforests, and let me tell you, this is not just a regular-looking ghost. The Tikbalang is a human-like ghost, but with the head of a horse and very long limbs and hooves. It can even shape-shift into a full horse, to avoid detection. As horses are not native to the Philippines, and were only introduced upon the arrival of the Spanish, it is believed that the horse-like appearance developed during the colonial era, when horses became more widespread in the country. But the concept of the Tikbalang is much older. Another theory suggests that the horse-like appearance may have been influenced by the images of the Hindi deity, Hayagriva, as Hinduism was one of the religions practiced before the colonial era. Encountering a Tikbalang is often considered an omen. Some beliefs suggest that seeing the creature may bring good or bad luck, depending on the circumstances. Like a lot of ghosts from around the world, the Tikbalang is known for its trickster-like nature. It is said to play pranks on travelers, and often leads them astray in the deep forests or mountains, leaving people lost. One way to stop the Tikbalang from doing this, is to turn your shirt inside out, which is a practice used to ward off specific ghosts in other countries as well. In other stories, the Tikbalang is said to have the power to induce nightmares or create illusions. Individuals who have encountered a Tikbalang might experience unsettling dreams or visions. In more malicious stories, the Tikbalang outright attacks people, and in some cases he even eats them. And if you're a female, an even worse thing can happen, as the ghost will rape you before devouring you. It is said that this is the way that the ghost reproduces. While the Tikbalang can be mischievous or harmful, it is also considered to be a guardian of the nature, said to protect the natural environment and the creatures that inhabit it. In some regions, people leave offerings such as food or tokens of respect and they enter the Tikbalang's territory. This is believed to appease the creature and avoid any harm it might cause. Tiyanak. Just like the tuyul from Indonesia, the Tiyanak is a ghost in the form of a newborn baby. But unlike the Indonesian tuyul, the Tiyanak can't be kept in a jar, and definitely doesn't bring any good luck to the people who find it, as the baby appearance is just a disguise. This creature is known for its deceptive tactics, luring unsuspecting people into its clutches. It disguises itself as an abandoned baby in the forest, and cries loudly to attract people. Most local people will know it is a bait, but sometimes an unknowing person picks up the baby. And once it is picked up, it sheds its disguise like a snake shedding its skin, revealing its true form, for then to kill the unlucky victim by biting and mauling. There are various stories of how these Tiyanaks came to being. The original story says that the Tiyanak is the spirit of a baby whose mother died during birth. But after the Spanish arrived, the Tiyanak was integrated into Christianity. In this altered version of the story, it is said that Tiyanaks are babies who died before they were baptized, for instance during abortion. After death, they go to a place known as limbo, where unbaptized dead people fall into, and then transform into evil spirits. Sometimes it is said they come back to the mortal world to take revenge on their mother, or family. The Catholic Church was known to have made use of this story to encourage parents to have their children baptized. Caparosa. A caparosa is a female type of ghost, dressed in a white dress or garment, and they are found in many countries around the world. You might know her as a white lady. The English name for this ghost is commonly used instead of the local one because its popularity reached its peak during the American occupation in the Philippines, which is why we rarely see her depicted in a traditional Filipiniana dress. Nowadays in the Philippines, the stories around these ghosts still are very popular and are often used to convey horror and mystery to young children. The most prominent one is the White Lady of Balit Drive, in Quezon City. The legend says that she died in a car accident while driving along Balit Drive, and her stories are frequently told by taxi drivers doing the graveyard shift. For instance, that when a taxi crosses Balit Drive, a stunning woman asks for a ride. Then the taxi driver looks in his mirror and sees the woman's face without eyes, nose, or mouth, full of blood and bruises, causing him to abandon his taxi in fear. In other stories, it is said that when an individual drives on that road in the early morning, they briefly see the face of a white-clad woman in their mirror before she quickly vanishes. Some accidents on this road are blamed on apparitions of the White Lady. The White Woman is an international phenomenon with varying tales and descriptions, but some things most of these stories have in common is an accidental death, murder, or suicide. And the themes of loss and betrayal usually play a big role in the story. Sigbin. The Sigbin is a unique type of nocturnal ghost in the Philippines, mostly known in the Visayas Islands and Mindanao, especially in the rural areas. It is said to dwell in the forests in the south of the country. While it is considered to be a supernatural entity, often it is believed that families keep a Sigbin as a pet. It is a dog/goat-like creature that walks backwards, and it is only visible to its owner. The Sigbin only eats raw meat, preferably bloody and freshly slaughtered, but if it can't have this, it will suck your blood through your shadow. It is said that the Sigbin emits a terrible smell, similar to a rotting corpse, from all the raw meat it eats, and that even though other people may not see it, they will most likely smell it. The legend goes that when you keep one of them as a pet, it will be your guardian, protecting you from danger, bringing you good luck, and sometimes they will even let you ride them, although when you do ride one of them, to other people you will appear as if you are walking in a very odd way. But there is another side to the Sigbin. If you let him starve and don't feed him well, it will turn on you, attack, and eat you and your family. What is it about these ghost stories that fascinates us so much? Is it the same curiosity that leads some of us to stop at the site of an accident, secretly wishing to see sprawled bodies? Perhaps we are so interested in these ghost stories because we want a glimpse to the past, or because we want to believe that there is more than the tangible. We tell these stories to make sense of shapes we see in the dark, or voices we can't trace back to anyone, and even though a lot of these stories are scary, we still find peace in having answers to the unknown. China, a land full of contrasts and many people. Enormous skyscrapers pierced the sky in cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen. The busy streets of Beijing full of technology and ambition. Chongqing, with its neon-lit skyline, feels like the future, a cyberpunk city. The rapid development, the fast trains, the endless crowds, modern China is a place of innovation and relentless progress. And yet, beneath this modern facade lies something old. Something ancient. A culture deeply rooted in tradition, in belief, in the supernatural. In the shadows of China's megacities, in the forgotten alleyways, and within the walls of centuries-old villages, stories of the past still linger. But in China, ghosts are not just stories, they are warnings. superstitions have shaped Chinese life since way back. From the fear of the number 4, which sounds like the word for death, to elaborate rituals meant to appease wandering spirits. These beliefs are woven into the fabric of daily life. But beyond just superstition, there are many ghosts, and many stories about them. Some are tragic. Some are vengeful. And some are simply terrifying. Tonight, we step beyond the flashy neon lights of the huge Chinese cities and we step into the darkness, to uncover some of China's scariest stuff. Welcome to the Glimp. One chilling tale is told in many Chinese families. This is the story about the girl in the mirror. It is said that if you stare into a mirror at midnight, you may catch a glimpse of a pale-faced girl standing behind you. Some people say she is a spirit who died in childhood, while others believe she was a victim of a terrible crime. If you happen to see her reflection, do not turn around. Because if you do, she will step out of the mirror and drag you into her world, forever trapping you in the glass. The only way to escape is to break the mirror, though some say that doing so only brings the girl's wrath upon you. Of course, this story, like many ghost stories, is told as a warning. But in a huge country like this, you can of course find way more ghosts and folklore. One of these ghosts is high on the list of the most feared spirits in Chinese folklore. This is the hanged ghost. It is said to be the vengeful soul of a person who died by hanging, whether by suicide, execution, or murder. Like many ghosts, it is unable to find peace, and thus it roams the world of the living, seeking revenge. This ghost is often seen hanging in the trees or from the beams of old buildings. Its head hanging to one side, with their tongue out, and its dark eyes full of sorrow and rage. Some say it does not simply haunt. It tries to strangle the living, dragging them into the same fate. The story of this ghost has had such an impact on people, that a lot of people used to fear walking under large trees at night, because they believed this ghost could drop down from the branches, wrapping its spectral noose around their necks. Once you feel something tighten around your throat, but nothing is to be seen, it may already be too late. I am sure you have heard of werewolves, but did you ever hear about tigers? Ancient Chinese literature speaks of tigers that walk in human form. Angry demons that prowl vast territories, leaving devastation anywhere they go. These creatures, known as man-tigers, or tiger fairies, are recurring figures in folklore, embodying both primal fear and supernatural horror. Legends tell of their victims suffering a fate worse than death. Those caught by these tiger demons are trapped in the spirit world, unable to reincarnate, forced to serve their killers. Some become restless ghosts, whispering to the demons, urging them to slaughter again. Not all tiger demons remain in monstrous form. Some take on the guise of women, choosing unsuspecting men as husbands. But their hunger is insatiable. In time, they devour both spouse and child, leaving only horror in their wake. History records chilling real-life cases. In 376 AD, a young man of 22 reportedly transformed into a tiger-like being. Losing his mind to a savage thirst for human flesh, he devoured many before he was finally captured. Starving in prison while awaiting execution, he perished. His hunger never sated. Much like the Western fear of werewolves, the specter of the tiger demon loomed over ancient China. Fear and superstition led to brutal justice. Men suspected of being tiger demons were often lynched by terrified mobs, and in some cases, even condemned by magistrates to die under the full sanction of the state. The tiger demon was not just a myth, it was a terror that haunted the minds of an entire civilization. One of the most feared and famous ghosts in China is the Avenging Woman in Red. A woman who dies tragically, often murdered, abused, or betrayed, returns wearing a flowing red dress, her face pale, her lips painted in blood. But be relieved. This ghost does not haunt people randomly. She is a spirit of vengeance, targeting those who wronged her in life. This legend begins with a young woman who fell in love with a man named Lu. Lu is a wealthy man who is actually engaged to another woman, but he falls in love with the young woman and they begin an affair. The young woman, whose name is not given, becomes pregnant with his child. She is overjoyed at the prospect of starting a new life with Lu and raising their kid together. However, when Lu's fiancé discovers their affair, she becomes enraged and confronts the young woman. In a fit of jealousy and anger, she pushes the young woman into a nearby river, where she unfortunately drowns. After her death, the young woman's spirit does not find peace. This is how she became a ghost. Many believe that if a woman dies wearing red, she will become a particularly powerful and vengeful ghost, capable of tormenting her enemies for eternity. There are stories of men waking up to find a woman in red, standing at the foot of their bed, with her hair draped over her face. If she lifts her head and makes eye contact, they never wake up again. While there is no evidence to prove the existence of her, there have been numerous reports of people encountering a ghostly figure that matches the description of the legend. Among the many urban legends of modern China, one of the most terrifying is the story of the Beijing ghost bus. The tale goes that one night, a man hailed the last bus home, bus number 375. And as he stepped inside, he noticed that among the passengers were three strange men, with unnaturally pale faces, and clothing that came from the Qin dynasty. The bus continued its route, and soon, the only passengers left were the man and an elderly woman. At one stop, the woman suddenly grabbed the man's arm and accused him of stealing her purse. A fight broke out, and the driver kicked them both off the bus. As soon as they were on the street, the woman turned to him and told him, "I just saved your life." Those three men, they had no feet. They were dead, floating ghosts. The next morning, November the 15th, 1995, the bus failed to report to the station for duty, and neither did the bus driver. 2 days later the news broke that the bus had been found submerged in the water in the Miyan Reservoir, with its driver missing, and its last stop about 120 kilometers beyond its normal route. Upon further investigation, several impossible sounding things were found. First, the bus was known to not have enough fuel to have made it all the way to the Miyan Reservoir. Second, when security footage of the entrance of the Miyan Reservoir was reviewed, the vehicle could not be found. And third, the state of decomposition in which the remains were found, was much more severe than it should have been, even accounting for the fact that they have been in the water. There are different versions of this legend, and some versions say that the bus was never even found, or that it overturned in a ditch. This makes the story feel like a legend, but it generally is said that this legend is based on a factual event. Regardless, if three strange people in Qin dynasty clothing board your bus, disembark as soon as possible, because that bus will not take you to your destination. Many places in China have stories of drowned spirits, whether it be in a bus, dressed in red clothes, or other ways. But one of the most famous is the Lotus Pond ghost. A long time ago, a young woman was betrayed by her lover and, in despair, threw herself into a lotus pond. Her body was never found, but the legend says that she still lingers beneath the water, waiting for another victim. Fishermen and travelers have reported seeing a woman's reflection in the water, even when no one is standing nearby. Some have felt an invisible force pulling at their ankles, dragging them toward the depths. Local superstition warns never to stare too long at a still pond, lest you see her face appear beside yours, and feel cold hands pull you under. This story shares similarities with other legends around the world. Let me know if you know which ones I am talking about. It is interesting to learn how many countries, far away from each other, have such deeply rooted stories in common. If you have seen my other documentaries, you know that there are many stories about vampire-like ghosts all over the world. In China, this is not different. In fact, this is one of China's most well-known ghosts. It is known as the jiangshi, often referred to as the hopping vampire. This creature is said to be the reanimated corpse of someone who died in a violent or unnatural way. Unlike Western vampires, the jiangshi does not sleep in coffins, it roams the land by night, and instead of moving normally this ghost is hopping, due to stiffened limbs. In both folklore and popular culture, the appearance of a jiangshi can range from that of a recently deceased person to that of a horribly decayed and rotting corpse. The jiangshi always lacks the suppleness that characterized a living person or even a West European vampire. The Chinese character for jiang literally means hard or stiff. The jiangshi is said to feed on the life force of the living, and it has the power to drain a person's vitality with just a touch. In ancient China, it was believed that the only way to ward off a jiangshi was with Taoist talismans or a special ritual that involved banging on drums and burning incense. There are tales of villagers locking their doors tight at night, for if you hear a soft thud outside your window, it may be the jiangshi hopping closer, seeking its next victim. In China, ghosts are not just shadows lurking in the dark, they are a bridge between the living and the dead, reminding people that the past is never fully gone. In fact, many of the most well-known ghost stories are rooted in real beliefs and customs, passed down through generations. These ghosts are not only figures of fear, but also symbols of respect, remorse, and the ties that bind families and ancestors together. In traditional Chinese culture, the concept of ancestral worship plays a significant role. Every year, families perform rituals to honor the spirits of their ancestors, making offerings of food, incense, and prayers to ensure their departed loved ones are well cared for in the afterlife. It's believed that the dead continue to influence the living, offering guidance, protection, or, at times, punishment for wrongdoings. For many, the boundaries between the living and the dead are far thinner than one might think. Ghosts can be vengeful, certainly, but they can also be kind, offering warnings or guidance to those who are lost or in need. The Hungry Ghost Festival is another cultural cornerstone, a time when families gather to offer food, light incense, and burn paper money for the spirits of the departed. During this festival, it's believed that the gates of the underworld open, allowing the spirits to return and roam freely among the living. The living must ensure they honor their ancestors and appease any restless spirits, lest they bring misfortune. These ghosts are also known as the hungry ghosts, and they share a lot of similarities with the prets from Indonesia, or the gakis from Japan. These are the ghosts of those who died with unfulfilled desires or improper burials. With thin, emaciated bodies and gaping mouths, they roam the earth endlessly craving food, wealth, or even human souls. The legend says that if one of these ghosts is not appeased, it will curse the living, bringing misfortune and illness. In ancient China, people believed that certain eerie wails heard at night were the cries of hungry ghosts, begging to be fed. To this day, families burn paper money and leave offerings of food to ensure these restless spirits do not turn against them. But beware, if you eat food left out for the hungry ghosts, you may find yourself with an insatiable hunger, one that no earthly meal can satisfy. As China skyrockets into the future, modern cities rise and ancient traditions fade, one might think that the belief in ghosts would vanish. But the opposite is true. Even in the bustling streets of Shanghai or the neon-lit avenues of Chongqing, the presence of the supernatural still lingers in the corners of the city. People still leave offerings outside their homes or consult mediums when they sense that the restless spirits of the past have returned. And so, the stories endure, passed down not just as folklore, but as living traditions, shaped by the deep cultural understanding that the spirits of the past are never truly gone. They walk beside us, sometimes unseen, but always near, waiting, watching, and sometimes, whispering. These stories are more than just superstition. These ghost stories are a tribute to China's past, lingering in the present. Maybe they seek justice. Maybe they long for home. Or maybe, they just enjoy the company of the living. But the next time you feel something cold brush against your skin, the next time you hear a whisper with no source, or see a shadow that doesn't belong, pause. Listen. Watch. Because in China, ghosts do not stay buried. Vietnam is a country whose history has been etched in blood and fire. For centuries, it has endured invasions, colonial rule, and wars. The Vietnam War, the most infamous of conflicts, left scars that have never fully healed. Millions lost their lives, villages were reduced to ash, and countless souls were never properly laid to rest. According to Vietnamese beliefs, those who die violently or without the rites that honor them become restless spirits, unable to find peace. This tragic history has given rise to deep-rooted superstitions, shaping the way the Vietnamese people honor their dead and interact with the spirit world. Yet, despite its haunted past, Vietnam today is a land of stunning beauty and rapid modernization. From the bustling streets of Hanoi to the scenic beaches of Da Nang, this country is a place where ancient traditions collide with the rush of progress. It's a land rich in culture, home to over 50 distinct ethnic groups, each with its own customs, languages, and beliefs. However, beneath the gleaming towers and vibrant streets, something else lies hidden, something unseen, yet ever present. In Vietnam, the supernatural is not merely folklore, it is an integral part of daily life. The dead walk among the living, and the line between the two worlds is thinner than you might think. Superstitions and spiritual beliefs shape the lives of the Vietnamese people. Mirrors are often placed at doorways to ward off spirits, for it is believed that ghosts fear their own reflection. Breaking dishes is seen as a bad omen, as it could invite misfortune into a home. Tonight, we journey into the shadows of Vietnam's past. We leave behind the bright lights of its cities and step into the mist, where legends whisper and spirits roam. Before we dive into the various ghosts of Vietnam, it is important to recognize that the belief in spirits and the supernatural is not unique to this country. Many nations in Asia share similar ghostly legends. For example, in Vietnam, the spirit of a woman who died tragically and returns to haunt the living is called Ma Nu, which closely resembles Japan's Onryo, a vengeful ghost of a person who suffered a violent death. Another one is Ma Doi, Vietnam's version of the wandering hungry ghost, which is almost identical to China's Igue, the Japanese Gaki, and the spirits venerated during the Hungry Ghost Festival. However, Vietnam has its own unique spectral lore, spirits shaped by its history, culture, and beliefs. And one of the most infamous haunted locations in Vietnam is the Pren Pass in Dalat. Dalat, a city nestled in the cool highlands, is known for its misty hills, French colonial villas, and serene lakes. It is a place that has long been associated with ghost stories, none of which are as chilling as that of the abandoned mansion at the Pren Pass. This eerie house stands along the winding road, abandoned for decades, and locals have long whispered about its curse. Some say it was once a French colonial estate, abandoned after the war, while others claim it was the site of a brutal crime. Visitors report hearing faint whispers, seeing shadowy figures moving behind shattered windows, and even feeling an unseen force pushing them away. Taxi drivers refuse to go near it after dark, their nerves too frazzled by the unsettling atmosphere. No matter the origin of the legends, one thing is clear: no one lingers long at the haunted house of Pren Pass. Ong Ba Bai, the boogeyman of Vietnam. Every culture has its own version of the boogeyman, and Vietnam is no exception. Parents warn their children about Ong Ba Bai, a terrifying old man who carries a sack and kidnaps misbehaving children. His name means, 3 bags old man, referring to the 3 bags he carries, each said to contain a stolen child. Whether real or just a cautionary tale, one thing is certain: when night falls and the streets grow quiet, Vietnamese children know to stay close to home, or risk disappearing forever. Ma Rung, the spirits of the forests. Deep within Vietnam's dense forests, a terrifying presence lurks, the Ma Rung, spirits of those who perished in the wilderness, often through violent or mysterious deaths. These spirits are said to guard the forests, their power and malevolence growing stronger in the isolated corners where sunlight barely reaches. The Ma Rung are notorious for their ability to shape-shift, appearing as beautiful women to lure unsuspecting travelers deeper into the woods. Their sweet, melodic voices trick wanderers into following them, only to get lost in a never-ending maze of trees. Once lost, the spirits use their enchantments to mislead their victims further, causing them to lose their way entirely. Those unfortunate enough to encounter the Ma Rung are often driven mad, hearing whispers or seeing shadows in the trees. Some claim to hear their own names being called, or even feel a cold breath on their necks. Travelers who disappear are said to be taken by these spirits, their fate sealed in the forest's depths. To protect themselves, locals offer small gifts or prayers at the forest's edge, hoping to appease the Ma Rung. These spirits are a haunting reminder of the power and mystery of Vietnam's natural world, where the boundary between the living and the dead is thinner than we realize. The ghosts of Hanoi's Old Quarter. Hanoi, Vietnam's capital, is an ancient city of winding alleyways and crumbling colonial-era buildings. The Old Quarter is especially rich with stories of spirits. Among its many legends, there is one that haunts the narrow, cobbled streets, the tale of the ghostly merchant who still walks the paths of the city, calling out to passers-by with promises of wealth, only to disappear when they approach. This spirit is said to be the restless soul of a merchant who lost his life in a tragic accident in the 1800s. Locals claim that the presence of this spirit is most felt at dusk, when the lanterns glow and the streets are less crowded. Anyone who has ventured too close to the merchant's alleged haunt has reported a feeling of being watched, as though a presence is following them, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Ghosts of Saigon. Ho Chi Minh City, known by its former name, Saigon, is a modern metropolis brimming with life. Yet, beneath the towering office buildings and bustling markets, the city carries with it the weight of the past. One of the more curious spirits said to haunt Saigon is that of the Floating Lady, a pale woman who drifts through the busy streets of District 1 at night, always seen near the older French colonial buildings. Some claim she is the ghost of a French woman who committed suicide after losing her lover during the war. Others say she is a spirit from the time of the Khmer Empire, appearing to those who have a deep connection to the land's ancient history. The Haunted Island, Con Dao. Perhaps one of the most haunted places in Vietnam is Con Dao Island, a place that holds a tragic history. Once home to a brutal French colonial prison, thousands of prisoners suffered and died here, their spirits lingering in the shadows of the island's dense jungles and decaying prison cells. Today, Con Dao is a popular tourist destination, but many visitors report hearing the chains of the fallen prisoners rattling in the night. Some have even claimed to see ghostly apparitions roaming the prison grounds or floating in the nearby waters, their mournful cries carried by the wind. As we conclude our journey through Vietnam's haunted past, it's clear that the spirits here are not confined to legend. They walk among the living, shaping everyday life with their presence. In Vietnam, the boundaries between the living and the dead are blurred, and the supernatural plays an integral role in daily routines and customs. One of the most chilling aspects of Vietnamese superstition is the belief in the hour of the ghost. Between midnight and 3 a.m., it's believed that spirits are most active, roaming the earth and seeking retribution. This is why many people avoid traveling at night, and why elderly relatives caution children to stay indoors. Trimming nails or sweeping at night is considered bad luck, as these actions are thought to attract evil spirits. The fear of the dead doesn't end at night. In Vietnam, pregnant women are discouraged from attending funerals, as it's believed that the sorrow of the ceremony could affect their unborn child or even invite spirits to enter their body. When a loved one dies, families often perform a spirit cleansing ritual to prevent the deceased soul from lingering and causing illness or misfortune to the living. The color black is strongly associated with death and misfortune, and it's avoided during celebrations like weddings, while red is considered a lucky, prosperous color. The number 4 is similarly avoided, as it sounds like the word for death, and many buildings skip the 4th floor entirely. Another deeply ingrained superstition involves the belief that the dead continue to influence the living, particularly during Tet, the Vietnamese Lunar New Year. If the ritual honoring ancestors isn't performed correctly, it is thought to invite misfortune throughout the year. Offerings of food and incense are common to appease spirits, ensuring their favor and protection. These beliefs reflect a deeper truth about Vietnam, a land where the past never fully fades, and the spirits of the departed are always present, waiting, watching, and guiding the living. In Vietnam, the dead are never truly gone. We are all familiar with the famous sightseeing places in Paris such as the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, or the Moulin Rouge. But besides these famous places, did you know there is another side of Paris that is mostly hidden for the public? Feared by many and said to be haunted, this is one of the spookiest locations on Earth. And in this documentary, we will explain you a bit more about it. Welcome to the Glimpse. Deep underneath the city, there is another mysterious world that has fascinated and frightened people for centuries. We are talking about the Paris catacombs, a massive labyrinth network of tunnels and chambers filled with bones of millions of Parisians who died long ago. Originally, the catacombs were created in the late 18th century. In this time, the city's graveyards were overflowing. The stench and also the risk of disease outbreaks were becoming more and more real. So the catacombs were a solution to these problems and would prevent the overcrowding of the Parisian cemeteries. In 1785, the city began the process of moving the bodies from some of the largest cemeteries in Paris, for instance Les Innocents, which was located in the heart of Paris and became a major health risk. The bodies were moved at night. This had to do with the fact that the transportation of human remains was a disturbing process that could be upsetting to the citizens. It also helped to maintain public order, because at this time, there was a great deal of social unrest in France, and the authorities were keen to avoid any attention or criticism. When you move into these tunnels, you will be stunned by the intriguing patterns and designs of these catacombs. Most of the walls are decorated with human bones, arranged in patterns and shapes that are artistic as well as very morbid. A very notable pattern found in here is the use of femurs and skulls to create crosses, which can be found all throughout the network of tunnels. Also, you will see a lot of arches and columns, which give the catacombs an almost cathedral-like feel. Besides these common designs, you can also find a heart made of skulls, a skull pyramid, and even an entire room that is decorated with skulls that are arranged in very interesting patterns. The Parisians in this era sure had a lot of creativity in them. But it's worth mentioning that not everything in the catacombs was designed intentionally. A lot of bones were just stacked haphazardly, and over time they created interesting shapes and patterns as they settled into the tunnels. Regardless of the origins of these patterns, it is a haunting and surely fascinating aspect of the history here. Nowadays you can explore a small section of the network, but the vast majority of these tunnels remain forbidden to the public. A lot of people that went into the tunnels report feeling a sense of unease and discomfort, and that it feels like as if the skulls are watching them. It is not weird that a big part of this system is closed for the public, as it is such a huge maze-like network of tunnels, that you could easily get lost. It consists of over 200 miles of tunnel with loads of the main tunnels branching off into smaller passageways and hidden chambers. The creation of maps of the Paris catacombs is a fascinating story in itself. The maze-like network of tunnels made it difficult to navigate, and there were few accurate maps available. Over the years, many people had become lost in the catacombs, some of whom never found their way out. Because of this, in the early 19th century there was an attempt to create an accurate map of the catacombs. This was done by a man named François Arago and his team. He was a physicist and astronomer, but he was also very interested in the underground tunnels beneath Paris. His team consisted of surveyors, cartographers, and engineers. Armed with measuring instruments, candles, and a determination to create the first map of the maze. It was a challenging and dangerous process. They had to contend with unstable walls, flooded tunnels, and the risk of getting lost themselves. They were noting down every detail, such as the height, width, and depth of the tunnels, as well as the distances between different points of recognizable landmarks such as staircases, wells, and crypts. Despite the danger and the difficulties, they managed to pull it off. After several years of work, they produced the first accurate map of the tunnel system. An impressive feat of cartography which allowed people to explore the catacombs with more safety and confidence. Nowadays the map is considered a historical treasure, and it remains an important artifact of the fascinating history of the Paris catacombs. Originally, the catacombs were created as a network of limestone quarries. Limestone was mined here to provide building material for the city, which you can still find a lot all over Paris. Over time, these tunnels became more complex and long, when eventually they were repurposed as a mass burial site. When they made this decision, they had to even expand more, and reconfigure the tunnels to accommodate the influx of millions of bodies. New tunnels and chambers were added, and some others were filled in. This led to the creation of the complex network of tunnels that exists today. Navigating the catacombs can be a difficult task. Even the most experienced explorers have had difficulties navigating here, as the tunnels are dark and narrow, and most of the tunnels are completely unmarked. It's a common thing for visitors to accidentally wander off the main paths and to get lost. Even though it is very dangerous to go into the depths of the catacombs, and it is advised to stay on the designated paths, a lot of people want to go further and deeper. People are drawn to the mystery and the otherworldly atmosphere. With only a dim of flashlight to guide the way, a chilling air, and a silence only broken by the sounds of footsteps echoing off the walls, many fanatics love to visit this place. Some visitors have reported experiencing supernatural occurrences, such as hearing disembodied voices or feeling cold hands on their shoulders. Others claim to have seen shadows or blurred lights moving through the passageways. Over the years, the catacombs have become the subject of a lot of legends and tales, which of course, contribute to the mysterious aura of the place. One famous example is the legend of the Cataphiles, a group of urban explorers who have been navigating the tunnels for decades. They are drawn to the catacombs for a variety of reasons, including the historical significance, the eerie atmosphere, and the thrill of exploration. They are said to have their own network of tunnels and chambers, and it is said that they use the place for secret meetings and parties. They also engage in various forms of artistic and cultural expression in the tunnels. For instance, some have created huge murals and graffiti art on the walls, while others have used it for underground concerts, film screenings, and cultural events. While generally the cataphiles are viewed as a harmless subculture, over the years there have been instances of vandalism and criminal activity in the catacombs. As a result, the authorities have intervened, but still many cataphiles continue to explore the tunnels in secret. Another famous legend here is the legend of Philibert Apert, a young man who got lost in 1793 and never was seen again. The legend says that Philibert's ghost still haunts the catacombs, and that sometimes in the echoes, you can hear his voice calling out for help. Besides the ghost of Philibert Apert, it is said that numerous ghosts are haunting the tunnels. For instance, the phantom drummer. There have been many reports of visitors that have heard the sounds of a drummer while in the tunnels, and according to the legend, the drummer was a soldier that became lost in the tunnels and never found his way out. They say he is beating his drums as he wanders in search of an escape route. Some skeptics believe that the sounds are nothing more than a natural phenomenon, for instance the result of an echo. Regardless, the story of the drummer adds to the mystery of the tunnels and continues to captivate the imagination of visitors and even locals. Another noteworthy ghost story of the catacombs is the story of the Lady in White. According to the legend, she was a young woman from the French nobility who became lost in the tunnels and died of exposure. Numerous visitors have seen her spirit wandering around, and most describe her as a beautiful young woman, dressed in a flowing white gown, with long hair and an ethereal glow. People have reported feeling a strange sensation of being pulled towards her, as if she is trying to lead them deeper into the labyrinth. Aside from the ghosts I mentioned, there is a huge variety of other ghosts to be found under Paris, from the shadow people who are said to be the ghosts of the people that died here, to child ghosts and monk spirits. These tunnels are one of the most haunted and scary places on Earth. Even though the catacombs have an eerie and dangerous reputation, they are also a powerful reminder of our own mortality, and they even have been the subject of several works of art such as the movie As Above, So Below, and for instance the video game Amnesia: The Dark Descent. While the Paris catacomb is probably the most famous underground burial site, there are a couple of other similar catacombs and underground tombs scattered throughout the world. For instance, in Italy we have the Capuchin catacombs of Palermo, located beneath the Capuchin monastery in Palermo. These catacombs contain thousands of mummified bodies, of which many are dressed in the finest clothes and are set up in lifelike poses. These catacombs date back to the 16th century, and just like the catacombs in Paris, were also used as a burial site. But this one was only designated for the wealthy residents. Then we also have the catacombs of Qam el-Shokafa, located in the city of Alexandria, in Egypt. These catacombs were discovered in the early 20th century and they are believed to date back to the 2nd century AD. In these catacombs you can find a blend of Egyptian, Greek, and Roman architecture styles. These are just a couple examples of the many catacombs and underground tombs that you can find throughout the world. And although each of these sites has their own unique history and cultural significance, they all share the common theme of using underground spaces as a final resting place for the dead. But are they really resting in peace? Or are the spirits of the dead still haunting these places? Thank you for watching this documentary, and again, please let me know what country's ghost stories you would like me to research next, and don't forget to subscribe.